I'd like to open the meeting, Select Board meeting of September 11th, 2023. We will be going into executive session according to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Let's have a vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks? And the chair votes yes, 4-0. This meeting will move to executive session and will return at 5:30 for a continuance of our open meeting. Thank you very much. I'd like to reopen the Select Board meeting of September 11, 2023. This is an open meeting in room 304. We are going to announce a recording of the meeting. We may have a fifth member on Zoom, so if we do, we will have individual votes on all votes taking place. At this time, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And remain standing afterwards, please. I
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is September 11th, 2023. I don't recall a meeting we've had that fall on this particular date. I'd like to read a couple of our materials, if we can, in honor of our veterans, both past and present, and of course those who perished at the World Trade Center. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and this government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. This statement made by the wife of the United 93 flight, she said, "If we learn nothing else from this tragedy, we learn that life is short and there is no time for hate." One moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Just about 5:40, not too bad. We now have the privilege of the Historical Commission attending a workshop with us. Maybe you could all introduce yourself to us, and please go forward.
I'm Christina Sewell, Chair. Sue Gaducci.
Jamie O'Day.
Bob Smith.
Philip Baker.
Thanks for coming. The purpose of this workshop is twofold. We want to discuss the mission and goals of the Dartmouth Historical Commission from your point of view, and secondly, a discussion of the status of the old police station on Russell Mills Road. So I did ask the chair to come prepared to talk about your mission and your goals and what you think they are, because I don't recall this has been done in a long time, so we thought it was appropriate, especially with new leadership and a lot going on. So,
Would you like me to do it from here, or?
You make the call.
I'm fine right here.
As
Thank
long as
you.
you're talking to the microphone is fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
The Dartmouth Historical Commission is here tonight for the purpose of explaining the rationale for our recent decision to postpone the demolition of the old police station at 247 Russell Mills Road, and to begin the process of exploring opportunities for redevelopment of this historically significant building. First, I will discuss this DHC as an organization, who we are, why we exist, our mission, and our goals. I will also discuss our connection to the Community Preservation Commission as it relates to historic preservation and the possible reuse of the old police station. Finally, I will explain the path that led us to vote for the demolition delay and our ideas for how the old police station could be repurposed for the benefit of Dartmouth residents. The DHC is made up of volunteers who give their time, like others who serve on Dartmouth's boards, committees, and commissions. The amount of time and effort required is considerable, and like you, we wouldn't do this work if it wasn't so important. It is. We believe our efforts significantly benefit the town, and we are guided by the knowledge that even small preservation efforts can yield important rewards. In the case of the preservation of the old police station, we strongly believe that preservation and reuse can be of significant benefit to Dartmouth residents. Our mission is to preserve and protect the town's historic, cultural, and archaeological assets whenever possible. For this reason, we have a process of demolition review to support efforts to rehabilitate and reuse historically significant buildings rather than tearing them down. In addition, we have a mission to interpret and develop the town's historic, cultural, and archaeological resources. These include sites like the Russell Garrison, which dates to King Philip's War in the late 1600s, and the Upon-Agansett Meeting House, built in 1791. The old police station, built in 1926 and originally used as Dartmouth's town hall, and is an example of a historic building that is part of our town's more recent history. It is in many residents' living memory as either the old town hall, the old police station, or both. It is worthy of protection. To support our mission, the DHC has developed specific preservation goals. The first is physical preservation. We coordinate with other town departments to minimize the impact of development on the town's historic and cultural resources. The second is documentation. We have developed and continue to maintain and add to the list of Dartmouth's historic inventory. This is done through the completion of Form Bs, managed by the Massachusetts Historical Commission, which document historic structures. The old police station is documented in DAR 201, completed in 1983. Form Bs include the history of the structure, who built it, who occupied it, how it was used and changed over time, as well as an architectural analysis and photographs. These documents help the DHC determine the historical significance of a building. The third goal is regulation. This includes the demolition review bylaw, which supports our work with the building department to preserve the town's historic structures. We also work with the DPW as well as state and federal agencies for the same purpose. The last preservation goal is advocacy and outreach. We work with other town organizations to promote historic preservation planning and to bring awareness to the public of the many historic and cultural resources of which the town is justly proud, which includes the old police station. The DHC is not the only town organization working to preserve and protect the town's historic and cultural heritage. The Community Preservation Commission also supports this mission. The CPC mission and goals / assessment of need and fiscal year 2023 plan was created after the CPC solicited and received input from stakeholders in Dartmouth to determine priorities for funding. The plan was adopted after getting input from town planning documents, comments from other town departments, commissions, and committees, documents including the 2007 Master Plan, DHC goals, and the 2018 Dartmouth Housing Production Plan, and comments made at a public hearing held in September 2021. The plan includes a mission statement that states the CPC's intention to enhance Dartmouth's character and quality of life by preserving historic places and structures and seeking creative solutions that meet the affordable housing needs for residents, among other goals. Their goals are distributed into 4 categories. Within each, the values are stated and goals and objectives are defined. One of them is open space and recreation, which relates to the value we place on the rural character, natural beauty, local industries, water resources, and historical roots of the town. Specifically, we value our heritage, which includes buildings and significant natural features that link us across time and enrich our community. To this end, the stated objective is to conserve, preserve, and protect the historical and cultural assets of Dartmouth, of which the old police station is one. Another category is historic preservation. Similarly, the value here is the rural character of Dartmouth and our historic roots, which come from the town's master plan. The CPC goals for this category are to preserve, promote, and rehabilitate significant historic structures and to support possible reuse of buildings slated to be demolished. The third category is community housing. Taken from the 2018 Housing Production Plan and the 2007 Master Plan, the town values retaining the small town feel even though we have big town attractions. To that end, the goals include improving feasibility of the development of affordable housing by encouraging adaptive reuse of buildings and supporting elderly and affordable housing opportunities in low and medium density settings, and expanding the number of affordable housing units. 5 specific strategies are listed in the fiscal plan. 2 of these relate to the topic at hand. The first is to support restoration and preservation projects for specific historical buildings, structures, and cultural landscapes. The second is to support reuse of historically significant structures. Again, the old police station is one of these. What I've just described provides the rationale for examining the opportunities for reusing the old police station. Now let's look at the building itself, its history, and how we came to this point. The building was constructed in 1926 by Andrew Butts. According to DAR 201, it was noted as being historically significant for architecture and politics/government. It was altered in 1959 when it became the police station, and other modifications were made in the following decades. In 2014, a police officer became ill with Legionnaire's disease. And in 2015, the town commissioned a police department feasibility study by Lieb Architects to look at options. The committee tasked with reviewing the study voted unanimously for Scheme B, total renovation, for $8.3 million. This included correcting all conditions, plumbing, mold, asbestos, etc. Other options included partial renovation and moving to the Gidley School location. Town meeting members approved Scheme B in 2015, but the required debt exclusion was voted down in the 2016 town election. In 2017, Town Administrator David Cressman tried to get the property rezoned to make it more attractive to condo developers who might be more willing to cover demolition costs. The Planning Board did not advance the idea, and it did not progress. In May 2019, the town formed an ad hoc committee to assess the future use of the building. It was disbanded during the COVID outbreak and never reassembled. 2 articles in Dartmouth Weekly detail what happened between 2019 and 2023. In 2019, the 2019 article, Take a Peek Inside the Old Dartmouth Police Station, reported there was a new police station use review committee, previously mentioned, that was supposed to come up with a plan for the department's property. At the first meeting, the committee discussed a number of possible uses for the property, including senior and veteran housing or an income-generating use to offset renovation costs. Initially, after the department was forced to vacate the main building, plans for an $8.4 million renovation of the station were put together. It was not approved by the town. In May of this year, a Dartmouth Weekly article entitled "Old Police Station Slated to be Demolished" reported that Town Administrator Sean McGinnis said there was no productive use for the building. Officials determined that the building cannot be reused, and costs to build housing on the site would be prohibitive to either the town or a private developer. The article also reported that the site could someday house a town facility, since the town lacks developable land for potential future municipal buildings. According to the article, Sean McGinnis was quoted as saying, "We will keep our options open." At the June DHC meeting, Chris Vitale answered questions about the demolition permit application that had been completed and submitted in May, but at that time there were no concrete plans for redevelopment. The commission voted to declare the building historically significant and moved to a public hearing, which was held on July 10th. Members of the public spoke in favor of exploring reuse options. The DHC voted unanimously to delay demolition for 6 months to allow time to explore possible alternatives. This is where things stand presently. What is the desired outcome of this demolition delay? The DHC proposes the following: preservation of this significant historic building, a cultural landmark familiar to nearly all Dartmouth residents, rehabilitation of the building for future reuse to benefit the community, open discussion and transparency throughout the delay, public input, DHC and CPC participation, as well as other departments and commissions. Withdrawal of the demolition permit application to allow for opportunities to be sufficiently explored, and no further action on demolition until an acceptable plan for rehabilitation and/or reuse of the site has been approved by the town and submitted to the DHC as part of a new demolition permit application. How could the old police station be repurposed? What could be done to best support the goals of the town to benefit the residents? There are many examples from near and far. Veterans housing, affordable housing for low and middle income families, senior housing, a municipal building, educational space, commercial offices, or apartments are just a few ideas. Whale and the New Bedford Housing Authority are just 2 of the local organizations that have experience transforming buildings with significant issues into useful spaces that benefit the community. The building's shell is estimated to be worth about $1 million. This doesn't include the land, which could be an attractive addition for an investor. The town already owns it, and it would be extremely costly to demolish. It is an established fact that it is more economical, environmentally sustainable, to reuse an old building as compared to tearing it down, clearing the space, and building a new one. This reuse philosophy has gained traction across the country in recent years and has proved to be a cost-effective way for towns and cities to preserve their cultural heritage while making progress in areas of housing and commercial development. Despite the conditions of the interior of the building, redevelopment and reuse is absolutely possible. The physical issues of mold, asbestos, and the conditions that cause Legionnaire's disease are all surmountable with today's technology. Tax credits for historic preservation, grants for projects that increase affordable housing, and funding from organizations such as the CPC are all potential sources of revenue. We are here today to begin the conversation about reuse of the old police station, and we hope you will be open to hearing our comments and suggestions. The DHC requests that the Select Board allow members of the DHC and Dartmouth residents in attendance tonight to address the Board in support of these ideas. Thank you.
Well prepared. You want to start with comments from here? From my own point of view, I want to be sure that this is a twofold discussion. I think there was rather pretty smart to weave the condition of the police department into what your mission is whole, because I think that they did relate to one another and how you did the process. So I thought we make sure that we stay on point and we end up with those two areas. This is not a public hearing, and I think we made it pretty clear that we're here as a discussion, a workshop. If there ever is and comes down to a public hearing, then it takes a different format. So we're here to talk to committee and any of their members who want to speak up at one point. And if a public hearing comes down the road, so be it.
Okay.
Okay? Anybody comments? Start off with?
Yeah.
Mr. McDonald?
Yeah. Just looking through the chapter 209. I believe this is the town under historic preservation, Article 3. What was the what factors did you use other than age of the building as a determination as to whether or not to save the building? Did you get any kind of engineering data as to the condition of the building, or did you get any past reports on what was wrong with the building in the first place, that the town decided to abandon the building? Was that a determining factor? Because I mean, the question that I have is how. I would say answer that first, because it all depends upon the answers that I get.
I can answer part of that in that I read through the entire feasibility study that produced the scheme A, B, and C, and the rationales for why one process looked more appealing and appropriate than others. And I know that there are other studies out there. Perhaps Sue could speak to that.
We also read through the air quality report that was done by, I don't remember his name.
Matter.
From
He
was from the Department of Health up in Boston, and he did that, and that was read thoroughly and also shared with people that have more knowledge than any of us. Just so that you're aware, last week I had requested for an architect and a contractor to accompany two of us from the Historical Commission in the building, so that we could actually have people with experience that could have some input on as part of the discussion, and we were denied access.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think still the outstanding question is whether or not the air quality of the building, or because of the person, one of the people who worked in that building contracted Legionnaire's disease. All due respects to architects, I mean, that may not be the total part of their wheelhouse for all intents and purposes, unless they have the expertise in that matter. But the other question that I have is, there's a significant timeline that you guys have to follow, correct? Okay, when did your board receive, what date did you receive the application for the demolition?
Now we're changing direction here.
Well, no, I
Well,
want to see the timeline.
Well, how about you let me finish what I was trying to explain? If I don't have the expertise to look at the interior of a building to say whether it can be repurposed for another use, and I invite an architect, a certified leads architect, who is also a professor at RISD, to accompany us so that we have a better understanding, and then we're told that we can't go in the building because of air quality, that's nonsense, because the air quality and the whole thing about Legionella is all tied into the ventilation system. There is no ventilation system in there. So if you think that I can get black lung from spending 20 minutes inside the police station, I bet dimes to donuts that you're wrong.
I'd just like to interject, if I may. So my answer to you, and I still stand by it, is that this board has not had a discussion on this issue since the day we voted to demolish the building. I have no clue as to where this board stands, what the opinions are, and what we should do about it going forward, if anything. So I thought it was appropriate that we're not ready for that level yet, because we don't know where we stand, and that's what the purpose of this meeting is for. So doing a lot of preparation without having some kind of consensus, I think, is a problem. And I think if we're going to come down to consensus today, that's what we need to do, or whatever that might be.
Mr. McDonald had a question about deadlines and timeliness. So if you'd like to rephrase that question, or if you'd like to learn more, we have that information.
Yeah, it's just, the question is, number one, when did you receive the application for the demolition?
The application was submitted online on April 19th.
Okay.
We did not receive a completed application until May 28th, at which time we reviewed it on June 5th.
Right. Okay, so that would fit in within the 15 days. Why wasn't the application submitted on April 19th? What was incomplete about it that made it complete on May 28th?
Why was the April 17th application not reviewed at the May meeting is because it was incomplete due to photographs. The required photographs of the building and the site were not uploaded and visible. Therefore, it was not considered.
Okay.
Therefore, Michelle Vieira, who is a staffer here in Town Hall, she uploaded those images by the 28th. So the application was complete by May 28th, making it eligible for review at the June 5th meeting.
Okay. All right, because this is important.
This is hugely important. It's timeline issues.
This is important because
Yeah.
if it's not a complete application, then it's not. So that when you get the complete application, that's when the timeline begins.
Exactly.
And if there's a question on the timeline, then it becomes who did what, when, and when it was done. And if the town did not submit a complete application on the 19th, according to what you needed as a complete application, then it's on the town. I don't have an issue with that at all, because somebody screwed the pooch and didn't do it correctly.
So to speak.
For all intents and purposes. I don't want this to become adversarial, because I want to find out what's going on and the truth. Okay? And this is key. And getting this piece of the information helps me understand the process a little bit more.
Could I just, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that if you go to the online portal and you look at the full application, everything is time-stamped. It's very easy to see when those pictures were uploaded, because it says exactly what date and time.
Okay, I have access to the permitting process for one-day licenses, but I think I can also get into, I'll take a look at it tomorrow when I get to the office.
Mr.
For all sorts of people who are incomplete in their applications, we'll just type a little comment, and I think those same comments were applied to this case. We just say, hey, could you upload the pictures? We need those before we can accept your application. Thank you.
Comment, you want to comment, Shane?
Yes, so we submitted the application. There were photos in the application. Subsequent to the application, they asked for photos of the exterior of the building. We had photos overhead with notes on everything on there, and we have plans of the building and specifications, so there's quite a bit of material submitted. When we were requested to submit additional pictures, we provided additional pictures, but we had provided pictures in advance with the application.
You did have some pictures and plans, but it was specifically requested, and it's on our application form, that we need it from all facades of the building. And there are specific requirements for those pictures, so that's why we asked for further ones before we consider the
I'm going to say,
application.
in the interest of being productive and positive and getting something accomplished, if there's semantics involved with 2 weeks or a picture or no picture, I'd like everybody to throw their hands up and say, okay, let's move on from that, because we're not going to accomplish anything by whatever happened. And I don't care who's accountable. We're all human beings and systems. So I think to further this discussion, keep it moving. And so if it's okay with anybody, object to that. Mrs. Brooks, you got something to say?
I'm not objecting to it. But I do have a question, because during the presentation, you said that the documentation of historical structures, which is Form B, was filed in the 1980s. I missed the 86, 83. I missed the, but my question is, what, in that form, what were they looking at as being historically significant with that building?
Its architecture and also its its as a historic municipal building important to the town. So the category is political slash, well, it's architectural, political.
Just because it was built in 1926.
1926 makes it within our 75
But that
years.
facade that was put on, which is like a stucco cement facade, doesn't cancel it out? I mean, the facade doesn't look historically significant.
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but no, it can be
Okay.
reversed. Things can be reversed, and what the Form B really does is it establishes the history of the building, how it was constructed, so.
And would
Talks about additions and.
Would our historic commission have completed that form? Who would complete
Those
the
are
form?
contracted out. We are currently our most recent batch of Form Bs were with PAL, is it Pawtucket Archaeological Lab.
And so when you contract with a company that writes up the Form Bs, and then do you provide them with addresses to go and look to see if something meets the criteria? Or do they drive around and find places? Like, how does that work?
They do documentary research, map research. They do come on site, but many times it's a private home, so they're not, they're looking
Yeah.
from the street, and so they do the documentary research. They look at old historic photographs. They, any primary source documents that they can find are contributing to this document that is then also reviewed by us and then also the Massachusetts Historical Commission.
Because I just can't wrap my head. Did we not know that it was a historical building, that it had this criteria, and therefore in the process, because everybody says, government works slow. This is the one time we worked fast. Like we went through this and contracted out for demolition before we even had all of this stuff done. Did we not know that it was a historically significant
I would
building?
like to add, if I can, because I was involved with the examination of reconstructing the old police station into a renovation to a new one, and then it was turned down by town meeting. I was very involved in the building committee, as my colleague, Mr. Mickelson, was. So, and I know I've said this to a couple of different people, but in that process, while we're moving and building the new police station, I said to the architect and the husband and wife team, who I had admired tremendously, they did a great job for us. If you recall, we were on time and under budget to build that new station. And I said to him, if the time ever comes that the town decides that we should renovate that old building, would you be interested? Can we call you? And he said to me, I remember it like it was yesterday, he said, do me a favor, don't call me. He said, I was involved in a renovation years ago with a building that was diseased. And it was renovated, it came out beautiful, and 2 years later, water started dripping out of the ceilings. And the place turned to, I don't know what happened to the building, but he said that his recommendation then, now that's his opinion. And your leads people have their opinion. These are all opinions. And there's going to be an opinion, our opinion at the time was that you couldn't make that building safe, and that's why we said demolish it. That was the vote as I recall it. Mr. Mickelson.
Mr. McGinnis, do you have any documentation that we were given as far as the health and the actual health of that building and why we made that determination? It wasn't just the Legionnaire's disease.
Yeah, I'm
One
sorry.
second, let me finish, please.
Hang on, you'll be next, sir.
So do we have dates? Did we come up with some dates? We didn't do this haphazardly. It was a long fight to get a new police station. We were, in the beginning, hopefully to find a way, or hopefully to find a way, to remodel that old police station. It wasn't meant to be for health purposes. And we took that to be the gospel at that point, in that time. And we moved forward. And if it was not for the condition, the Board of Health, and the health of that building, we wouldn't have a new police station today for that reason. So we took that very, very seriously, and what responsibilities we had for that building. And we sat for quite a while, did nothing with it. No one ever came forward, either your organization or anyone else, any private industry, come forward to repurpose it if possible. It was pretty sick, from what we were told. I'm not a doctor. We took these recordings as the gospel, and quite frankly, I wouldn't bring my grandmother in that building.
What year was that? What year did you work on that? When you asked those architects if they would be in, could we call you if we were going to do something else with this building? What year, roughly what year was it?
8 or 10 years, I suppose.
Okay.
Ago.
For starters, the technology has moved on dramatically in terms of being able to eradicate Legionnaire's disease in a building. And like someone said at our public hearing, there are plenty of cruise ships that have had cases of Legionnaire's disease, and not one of them has gone to a scrapyard. So I think that statement was pretty poignant.
Okay.
I have a question about the way, when the Lieb and Associates architects, when they created that feasibility study and gave the options of A, B, or C, as I recall, A at the one end of the spectrum was to just gut some of the interior of the building, and that was I think it was a $5-point-something million estimate. And then B, which was voted on unanimously, was to gut the entire building, including the roof, get rid of all the asbestos, all that. So isn't it possible that Lieb architects thought that the building could be renovated? Why would they have proposed Scheme B to do all that if they didn't think that that would result in a usable, revamped building?
Very possible. Mr. McGinnis?
So I can provide some clarification. So first off, there were pictures submitted with the application. The committee asked for additional pictures. That's just as an aside. The building has been left vacant for nearly 10 years. We've been to 2 town meetings where we requested funding to demolish the building, unanimous votes for funding to demolish the building. Nobody ever brought up anything about being historic, saving the building. There's a front portion of the building which is historic. There's a large addition off the back that was done in the 80s that's substandard and has a lot of issues that is not reusable. When we met with the reuse planning committee, they were pretty unanimous that there was no use for the building at all. They would prefer it to be demolished. We came to an agreement on that. That's when we presented it to town meeting. Since the building has been unoccupied for so many years, there's a number of issues with the building related to mold, mildew, air quality. Additionally, there's asbestos remediation that needs to be done in the building. And there's just substandard construction in the rear portion of the building. We're just looking to demolish the building. The town has no use for it. No one's ever approached the town for use for it. When they were advocating to build a new police station, there was a lot of historical discussion around the building. The town voted not to save the building. Now it's just sitting there. So the town does not have a use for the building. It's not significantly historic. It's built in 1926. The facade looks nice. The rest of the building is in not great shape. Not dissimilar to the old Southworth Library that sits behind the old North Branch Library, rotting away because the town determined that they needed to save it. Once they determined it was saved, nobody wanted to do anything with it. So now it sits there rotting, and there's nothing to do with it. So there's a use for this land. The town does not have a lot of developable land. There's multiple uses for this land. It ties in with a lot of recreation space that's there already. The building doesn't fit in. It was not determined to have a use 10 years ago. It still does not have a use. So we're trying to move forward with it. We went through the process appropriately. We filled out all the information. The board didn't provide a response in time. We're just trying to move forward. We've advertised it. We've procured it according to the state procurement guidelines for demolition. We've been going through this process for probably 6 months to make sure we have everything in a row, all the evaluations, it's ready to go. So that's where we're at. So we're looking to move forward. We appreciate the feelings of the committee and wanting to preserve historic structures. I don't think the town feels like this is one of them, in my opinion, and the opinion of the reuse committee. So we're trying to move forward with the demolition of the building. And one last thing, Sue, we didn't deny you access. We don't feel it's safe, the air quality. When we went through the process, originally the committee asked for access to the building. We provided it once. We don't want people going through there. Like I said, the air quality is not bad, there's a lot of mold in there, and there's asbestos. So we're not looking to have people going through the building. If the board feels otherwise, they can certainly allow for that use.
Well, I'd like to know who determined that the back portion of the building is of poor construction, because I haven't read anything in the report of any of those reports about it. Number two, the committee that was formed, we were told that that committee never really got any traction because of COVID, and it never met after things were done with COVID. That no one ever recalled that committee to discuss the future use of that building.
The committee was to talk about the site and the building. They agreed that the building had no use. Beyond that, there was not agreement on the site. It didn't come up. There was no discussion on what to do with the site after that. So they had agreed that the building should be demolished.
And as far as we knew, you requested from the chair, at the time the chair was Judy Lund, to postpone your attendance at one of our meetings to discuss the demolition of the building. We have an email.
April.
It's possible, yes.
So
I think that, I'm going to repeat what I had said before. I think we could go back and forth on opinions, and we go back and forth on these details, but it doesn't matter right now because I think it's pretty clear where we stand right now. We had a mandate from the town meeting and from the previous board, which was not the same people. And if there's a thirst or a hunger to make that, to do anything different, as I said, we've never discussed this issue since the building was voted to demolish. So I don't know where we stand.
What was the mandate from the town meeting? Is that on the record? I assume it is.
It was a capital budget request, so it was part of the capital plan submittal. I can get the.
That wasn't about the demolition of the town, the old town hall per se. It was about a budget to restore that building vis-a-vis the.
No.
Two different meetings.
It was a capital request for the funds to demolish the building.
I think we would like, as a commission, to, during the 6-month delay, to find a positive solution to this, trying to save the building. And whether that would probably involve bringing experts in to look at the building, to give professional opinions on what could be done and what might have to be done, to have input from our taxpayers and residents about possible reuses for the building, what they would like to see happen. The building is also connected to a very, very valuable piece of well-located land that could be used for something like senior housing. It sits at the end of Elm Street, which leads into one of the most beautiful parts of Dartmouth, into Paden Aram. I think we should be really very sensitive and careful about how that property is developed and used. But I'd like to see the town, have a positive feeling about this demolition delay period and trying to find a solution to save it.
I would just add two things to that. Just quickly, I'll just say that, one, we have the Gidley School takedown cost the town about almost $250,000 more to take it down because we had delays. And it got worse. The building, it cost more to do, but not only because costs went up, but also the mold got worse over time. And it cost, it should have gone down sooner than it did. So that's another consideration. And I'm not abdicating either way. I'm just saying that is a consideration. Stanley?
Well, I was basically going to say the same thing. It comes at a cost to the town for the delay. And God knows, we all know about what costs are for building, demolition, and et cetera, et cetera. I would be willing to, I think 6 months is way too long. Considering the time frame that the board was notified prior to this. So I think we should come to, I don't know what the board's going to say. In my opinion, I'd give you 3 months.
Mr. McDonald, you want to say?
I was going to add something.
I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
That's all
Go
right.
ahead.
Adding to Mr. Mickelson and adding to Mr. Smith's comments. Bob's asking that we, I build on his point that in the 6 months we have, could we find positive solutions for this, for the repurposing of this building? And I'll remind your board that at our July 11th meeting, we voted that the building be preferably preserved. That puts the demolition delay in effect in order. So we are now in a 6-month stay. So that takes us to January 11th, 2024, until the stay expires. So, building again on his comments, why not work in the time we have left? Regardless if costs do go up, I think the town is legally committed to observing the stay, and the stay lasting till January 11th, 2024.
Yeah, I'm sorry. First of all, I apologize if I'm looking at duality here. I'm looking actually at the record, on the permitting process. So I'm looking at the attachments and what was sent in. I'm looking at the timeline. So I apologize if I look disinterested, but I'm not. I'm actually looking for facts, and I'm finding them. So the other thing is just a quick comment on Mr. Mickelson's 3 months. There's only 4 months left. So what the heck? What's another month? What's another 30 days beyond that? So I don't have, if there's a solution out there, fine. If the Historical Commission wants to go see if they can find something, have at it. Let them go. Let them find it. And if they need access to it, let's give them the access, but let's not make it a continual day after day after day after day after day, you know, so that if there is any kind of potential health hazard, that it's minimal. And I do request this, that anybody who enters that building, please mask up for safety. For all intents and purposes, it's just a prevention, not because there's actual something there. We don't know. I would much rather have somebody walk out of there and survive and live 100 years than does, well, Sue, I know. Sue, I would love to have you around for another 100 years. I really would.
No,
No,
thanks.
so-
No, thanks.
But, you know, I
really.
mean, I would, personally, I would feel a whole lot more comfortable somebody entering the building and making sure that they're safe. That's all. So, that's
Next.
my one opinion of 5, or
Chris?
4 tonight.
I just, I recently moved back to Dartmouth. I grew up here. But I think all of us were a bit surprised in a way, and maybe me more than anybody having been away, that that this demolition of the police station, it seemed in a way to kind of come out of nowhere from my point of view. And, you know, then I started digging into it for you know, the last several months. And I'm wondering whether the residents of the town knew that this was coming. I know they must have known about the whole process for years. It's been going on for a long time.
I'd like to interrupt because time is important. This goes back to the what ifs and only the what happened. I think that what you're hearing from the board is some flexibility here. And my recommendation, my thoughts are that I think I need to know that that is a building that can become safe. I don't care what it turns into, how you turn it. Are the new technologies, the professional opinion that says that, yes, we can make this clean, and that, to me, that's the first step. If we can't find that out in 3 months, or whatever they might, then what good is it to go further with design? And I think, from my personal opinion, if I could be convinced that it can be done, that changes everything. And at one time, we didn't think it could, and maybe this technology is good for us. Ms. Brooks?
I just wanted to say that I totally understand the 6-month grace, and I think that, as you said, we're a couple months into it already, so we really have compressed this in 4 months. I'm going to go out and also say, I think coming up, we have our town meeting on October 17th. I would suggest that your committee draft something to hand out at town meeting. You're not on the warrant currently, and there's no place for that. Very rarely would the moderator give you time to speak on the issue, but this is a group that has voted, as they've said, voted to demolish this. But it's one group, the town meeting group. But I think if you provided them with information, and that's all it is, you're not asking anything more than information, and then organize some other time where you can present in this sort of forum, only you're sitting up here, the information that you have found out from, and sooner rather than later, because as I said, it's shocking that municipalities were usually with the slowest move, and this one, when you see your timeline, it sounds really fast, and if I hear the other timeline, it sounds like it took a long time. But here we are, and we can't undo a demolished building. So we better
have
get it
two
right.
issues here. The potential cost of demolition, it's going to be, if we wait, it's going to be more. And secondly, who's going to pay for, and how do we get the funds to do the research on the safety feasibility of the building? Sir?
I'd like to add that there's, in the demolition bylaw, there's a request that when an owner is demolishing a building in total, that they simultaneously present plans for the reuse of that site, the reconstruction of that site. I think many of us on the commission don't want to see an anchor fence with plastic bags wrapped around it for the next 5 years. It's a very high-profile site, and we'd like to not see it looking like an unused piece of property.
The bid award specifies that it's loam and seed and grass, so it'll be a grass area,
And a fence or no
no
fence?
fence.
Okay, and what about plans for reuse of that property? Because the bylaw does request that that the owner, I'm repeating myself, present a plan, an architect's plan for the replacement of a demolished property. I think we have a copy of the bylaw.
I do.
Somewhere.
You summarized it well. It's a requirement that, and we didn't feel that that requirement was met either.
McMahon, are you a member of the committee?
I was asked by the committee,
I'm sorry, but we agreed it's got to come through I just want to follow the protocol. Don't take it personally, please.
I won't, don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to follow up on Bob Smith's question. His question to your board is, what are the plans for the reuse of the property? And what are the specific plans for the reuse of the property and your estimated timeline for it to be completed and up and running? So two-part question.
I mean, I can answer that. There's a multitude of uses for the property. As I mentioned, the town maybe has 2 pieces of developable property that the town owns and is developable. This is one of them. It also connects a large recreation area, so there's a number of uses around that. You know, there's been talk about a recreation center, community-type center that's a location for that as well. So there's a number of uses that haven't been finalized. The issue is the building's condition and state, and it's been slated to be demolished for a number of years. We're just following up with that.
Okay, so to recap what you just said, could be recreational use, soccer, ball fields, et cetera, or it could be a recreational building, a physical building. Okay, that answer.
Whatever it is not going to be on that site. It just doesn't work the way it is. In the physical location the building is now. So it would be somewhere else on the site, no matter what it's done.
All right, that answers part one of the question. Part two was, what is your timeline for completing this vision that you have for it?
I mean, that's up to the select board and town meeting voters, so we don't have a timeline. We're looking to move forward with options because it's a nice site. You've heard me mention that all of our recreation facilities in town, whether they're natural or developed, are getting the use has increased the last few years, so we're looking to maintain that. You see new playgrounds going in, pickleball courts going in, so we're looking to make these changes relatively quickly because that's what the public wants. So, but I don't have an exact timeline.
Okay, I'm going to make one more comment.
Okay. I just wanted to know whether the town had asked the residents at large whether the recreation facilities were the top priority for reuse of that space, even if the building did come down, or whether the other priorities that I discussed in the opening, such as low-income housing, senior housing, veterans housing, were any of those options considered, even if it was to mean putting up a new building in place of the old one, or was it only open space and rec and pickleball courts that was considered the top priority for reuse?
Well, in the past, those options were looked at, 10 years ago when the facility was abandoned. Since then, no, there hasn't been a request for those particular uses in town. There's other areas in town that would be more suitable, I think, for those uses, just because this is more of a recreation area. So we're trying to accommodate that and be consistent with that.
Okay. You want to get one? I'll give you one.
I'm just going to be very brief. I just want to bring to your attention that 2 of the 3 working groups through the 2023 master plan agreed that a mixed-use model for the old police station would be a appropriate venture. Number 1. Number 2, I know that Heidi's wheels were turning when she asked about what the value of the old police station, old town hall was. And as you already know, the old town hall, which is now DCTV, sits right next to it. And this is sort of an illustration, if you will, of how the town progressed in terms of history. It started out with a building, the old wooden building that looked like that looks like DCTV, and in, progress forward, 1926, we ended up with this building.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, it's time for us to make any recommendations here.
They have 6 months.
No, I'll make a motion that we grant permission to the Historical Commission to gain access to the building upon, once or twice during the course of what they need to, and that they provide a list of those entering the building, and those who enter the building wear a mask. That's my motion.
For what purpose?
For the purpose that they want to look at a
evaluate the-
determination as to the building, as to the condition of the building. That's right? That's what, right?
Yes, please.
That's what it's for.
And we can't move forward till we know that.
Right. So,
I'll second that.
This regard to the safety, period.
To reuse the building ever
whatever,
at
the-
all.
So I just want to ask, that's.
Okay, we have a second motion, second? Okay, discussion.
That's the board's decision. The procurement for the demolition was a long process, which was not a problem, but we've awarded the contract, so there could be a significant cost to the town for delaying the project. So
we have, with all due respect, we have no choice. We have 4 months before anything can happen. So during those 4 months, they can go in, let's make the best of it, let them go in, do what they need to do, and, wear masks, please. And just give us a list of those entering the building.
Of course.
Please.
Well, and that'll be police, if you will, by the town administrator as to who goes and when.
Yeah.
And how we do it.
And
Is
how
that
much
part of the
time, how much time you need?
Well, I mean, if it takes an hour to go through the building, and if they need to come back, just schedule. All they need to do is notify who it is, when they want to go in the time frame. That's all. Let's keep track, so that we have a record of who's going into the building.
However, somebody mentioned the funding of this.
Mr. Tattlebaum asks about that.
So where does that,
I think it drops down from the sky.
That's their budget.
I mean, the reason that I requested entrance for an architect to go into the building is because she was willing to do it pro bono. So that's kind of the route we'll try to go. We don't have any money. We have $250 that we get to spend.
Okay. Buying coffee.
It's part of
use
our
it all.
budget, yeah.
get
Across
the
the street and
masks,
buying
get the
coffee.
masks, and the hazmat suits.
We'll provide the mask.
My only other comment would be, the sooner the better, to get the first part done, which is the safety part, so we can then move on, and then you give us the time we need, because there's a lot pending on whether that building is going to be safe or not. I see you have a very qualified and astute architect in the audience, and she's ready to
I'm not an
go.
architect. I'm not an architect.
I don't blame you.
I'm on the construction side.
I wasn't talking about you.
Sorry.
But you're a good construction guy, too. Do we need to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay, we're ready to vote.
And it doesn't need to be a roll call, because
Okay.
there's no remote.
You have a motion and a second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. I want to say thanks for your preparation, for coming to us. You got a big job, and if the Historic Commission is not going to advocate for this building, nobody's going to, and you have, and that's the part we appreciate, the time and effort you put into it.
Let me just say this. I'm sorry that we had to deal with this solely, because I would have loved to have gone in further into as to what you guys do and the listing and what has happened over the years with the Historical Commission and the buildings in town. So maybe we can save that for another time, so
Another
we don't have
workshop.
to deal with this.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming. You have to adjourn it when you get out.
You have to adjourn your meeting.
Thank you. Okay.
No,
Okay.
Frank's here. What is this
I
shit?
mean,
All right, just a note, Frank is
Sorry, yeah.
live.
you can hear me. Okay.
Ask him if he's in. Frank, you can hear us? Perfectly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw his mouth move.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever.
Could you give me an agenda? Printed one.
All right.
Okay. Very good. We're ready to go.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for everyone being patient. Not too bad time-wise. Okay, that was the workshop finished for the Historical Commission. We now have hearings. Public hearing on, wrong one?
Make sure you open up the hearing. Cable.
Cable television.
Comcast license.
What's that?
It's the Comcast license hearing.
It's in the
That's
back.
the first one. Okay.
Make sure you open up the hearing.
Okay, we'd like to open the hearing for the Comcast licensing agreement. Mr. McDonald's going to take the, are you going to read it for us, Mr. McDonald?
No, no, you're going to open up the hearing first. You
Okay.
can't, I mean, this is a motion.
No, here it is.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
here. Excellent. Did you get the copy of that? You can read the whole thing.
Well, it's,
Very technical part of the meeting here. Okay, we need a motion to open the hearing.
So moved.
Mr. McDonald, you can read right through it.
okay. I'm not
You need a
gonna-
second.
I'm not going to say good evening.
Oh, second.
Yeah, in the
I'll
middle.
You
second.
can read
that.
right through it.
And vote.
No, it's different. Thank you, sorry for the confusion.
All right. Well, might as well go by script. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Dartmouth's public hearing on the Comcast cable license renewal. He's David Tattlebaum, Chairman of the Select Board, which is the cable license issuing authority under Mass General Law, Chapter 166A. Notice this hearing was posted in local newspapers twice in 2 successive weeks. Copies of the legal advertisements are here entered into the record as hearings exhibits 1 and 2. State law requires the holding of any public hearing prior to the final action on a proposed renewal license, which shall include opportunity for public comment on the proposed renewal license. The proposed renewal license, as well as related Comcast agreement to continue interconnection of the town and school buildings, have been available for public inspection in the clerk's office public cable file, and this hearing follows a previous select board hearing to allow comments on the town's cable needs. Based on information presented to the town, the select board may take final action on or approve or deny the proposed renewal license before us this evening. Public comments, if any, as well as questions to Comcast should be directed through David, and he will rule whether they are in order. Please keep your comments no longer than 4 minutes. Before the public hearing, I'd like to, the board would like to thank Peter Chase, the town's Director of Media, for diligent work on identifying the town's cable needs and successfully negotiating Comcast meetings of the town's needs. We'll have 2 brief speakers before we accept public comment. The first will be Patrick Shearns, of Comcast, followed by Peter Chase, and then we will accept comments from the public, if any, followed by select board discussion of the proposed renewal and a possible motion regarding final action on the proposed renewal and municipal building interconnection agreement. Mr. Shearns, please come forward and introduce yourself. Thank you.
You almost ran out of gas there, Mr. McDonald.
Is Mr. Shearns here? He's not here.
Oh, wow.
That's not
he's not
good.
here.
Free
So-
cable, right?
Well, he doesn't have to be here, as far as I know.
Well, you know,
Make a few changes while he's not here.
We have our cable licensing attorney, Bill August, on via Zoom, if you have any questions in regard to the form or function or other specific contract questions that Peter can't answer.
So I'll just do a quick presentation on some of the differences in the contract. Hello, my name is Peter Chase. I'm the Director of Media for the town of Dartmouth. On October 3rd, 2022, the Select Board held a public hearing for comments on the proposed renewal of the cable licensing with Comcast. During this meeting, strong support was shown with both written and verbal communication for the continued funding of DCTV, retaining a senior discount, and maintaining the current iNet that connects 16 municipal buildings within the town. I believe this license does this and more. First, in regards to DCTV funding, this license will increase its capital funding to $560,000 over 10 years. It will also raise the annual operating revenue that the town receives to fund DCTV to the federal maximum limit of 5% of Comcast's gross annual revenue in Dartmouth. Finally, it will provide DCTV with the option to transfer one of our standard definition channels to a high definition channel. And then also during this upgrade, it'll change our standard definition channel transmissions to a higher def signal transmission, so it'll be a clearer picture on the TV at home for cable subscribers. New rules from the FCC were implemented in September 2019. These changes stated that cable-related in-kind contributions required by local franchising authorities from cable operators will be subject to the statutory 5% cap on franchise fees. The definition of in-kind cable-related contributions will include any non-monetary contributions, including but not limited to free and discounted cable services to public buildings, costs in support of PEG access other than capital costs, and costs attributed to the construction of iNets. With this new rule, this requires the town and Comcast to create a new separate agreement for the iNet service. This iNet agreement continues data service for 16 municipal locations at a charge substantially below market price for data services. Due to the same changes in FCC rules, Comcast is allowed to charge for cable TV services to public schools and municipal buildings. This license has a side agreement that states Comcast will continue to provide free standard cable services to the existing 27 locations. However, additional new cable television services will follow the new FCC rules. This license requires Comcast to continue servicing the entire town and grandfathers the existing footprint into its service area. It also requires them to add services to new developments that have at least 10 homes per an aerial mile and 15 or at least 15 homes per underground mile. These line extensions criteria are a little more favorable than what other communities have in their licenses. We took the time to upgrade some language and standards during this renewal. We incorporated some standards and mandatory requirements in regards to customer service. A few topics covered in this license are average wait times on the phone, call center hours or answering services, and standard time frames for new service installations. This license also provides broad insurance requirements, indemnification of the town, and requires performance bonds from Comcast. Just a few reminders, as in all previous TV licenses, this one remains non-exclusive. This does not prevent future providers from serving the town of Dartmouth and providing competition. Let me repeat this because this is something that comes up probably once a month. This license is non-exclusive. We can have any other provider come into town and provide the same service. It does, however, have level playing field language, which would require another provider to meet the same requirements that Comcast would have in this license. So it couldn't be any more favorable terms to a competitor. Finally, just a reminder that due to federal law, this license cannot and does not discuss or set rates. Comcast reserves their right to set their rates as they see fit. I believe this license incorporates all the comments we received during this process that are applicable to the federal law. I would like to thank Bill August, the town's cable attorney, for his guidance and knowledge on this negotiation. And before the board opens up public comment, I request that you recognize him for any brief comments that he may have. I look forward to answering your questions that you may have, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good to be back. I have a very high confidence level about the town of Dartmouth Comcast renewal license before you really being a great license. This is all I do is represent cities and towns. It's 98% of what I do in renewal. So I pretty much have seen them all. And this is really one of the strongest ones. We're at the maximum allowed for the annual, because the federal law caps it at the 5% of gross. The capital funding, as Peter Chase said, is increased. So this ensures the longevity of the community channels and studio, barring unforeseen, like sweeping changes in technology where maybe cable disappears. But so long as cable continues and cable licensing continues, we're really in good shape. No one has a crystal ball, but I based on my experience and being so intimately involved with every single word in the license, along with Peter Chase and Sean going through drafts, we're in good shape. Peter already explained the substantive high points, so I won't go over that to rain again. I would just like to give the strongest possible thanks to Peter Chase and Sean. Peter was my main liaison, but Sean was in the loop on all the emails and the back and forth and gave us great support. And the town manager, Sean McGinnity, was in the loop on everything on this. Peter Chase really understood and was involved in every twist and turn, on every word and every comma, and read everything. And I'm really appreciative of that, because it gave us a lot of credibility with Comcast in negotiations when they see the town is so on top of it and has high expectations for it. And although not here, which surprised me, because Patrick said he was going to try to make the hearing, Patrick Shearns, the Comcast attorney, who we worked very closely with, he was a super negotiations partner, so that also adds to the confidence level. He was never looking to, really cut back from what we identified as needs. Sometimes he couldn't get approval on each and everything we were requesting, but he really tried and was very responsive. So Comcast, thank you, and Peter Chase and Sean McGinnity. We drafted a motion for after the public comment stage, should the town be ready to take final action, which, the renewal team, Peter and I would recommend, because it's a great package, and we're just past the expiration date. We want to lock it up so the town has the protection of being under contract.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to open up the comment.
No, let's get some questions from the board first.
Yeah, right. So board first with any questions.
Yeah, I do.
Mr. McDonald.
Peter, and our attorney, sorry, forget his last name. August, sorry.
Bill August.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I'll just call you Bill.
Okay, Ms. McDonald.
I'm looking at a letter dated September 6, 2023, from Patrick Shearn regarding the senior citizens discount. Proof of age over 65, that's fine. Head of household, of course. Income eligibility, generally that form that falls under any type of senior discount, fuel assistance, Social Security, and whatnot. $2? $2 is absolutely
Ridiculous.
incredulous. I mean, you can get a cup of coffee for less than what, more of a discount on a cup of coffee within $2 than a Comcast for $2. This is, for the lack of a better word, the best word I can call it, it's stupid. Okay? And I don't see anything in here for any type of internet service or any type of service that they provide for low-income individuals. Hey, I have Comcast, and I want to throw up every time I get my monthly bill, plain and simple. I know I don't have,
Right.
I have a right, because the amount of services that I get, I'm paying for, I understand that, and I can reduce that. But I can't see somebody who is just scraping by on Social Security or who is getting just some type of assistance that can survive on something like this, let alone internet. Everything is almost internet-based, and they need to have internet. And there's nothing here to provide any type of low-income or assistance. And $2, I mean,
You're in good company in feeling that way. That it's a widely held sentiment.
I mean, this is why I propose the town start looking into its
But
own
let me explain. So,
internet.
in terms of
Oh, you froze
internet
up, sorry,
rates.
Bill.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Must be that Comcast
Okay,
internet service.
I just want to say I empathize with what you're saying because obviously you're in good company. That's the main thing we hear from local governments and the public is that the rates are so high and there should be more discounts. But let me back up. So, I totally hear you loud and clear. I've been knocking my head against the rate deregulation laws that Congress adopted to deregulate rates. But let me just tell you the parameters. First of all, internet is completely deregulated, and not only so to the point that we are prohibited expressly from including any provisions regarding internet service or rates in a cable license. A cable license can only address the cable services. Now, and there are like literally 100 cases on that. It even went to the Supreme Court where they tried to get cities and towns tried to get cable modems, which did internet connectivity years ago. It made it to the Supreme Court and they knocked it down. They said the Cable Act specifically deregulated the rates. To the extent that cable service can be regulated, rates cannot, even cable rates cannot be regulated. So all of internet can't be in the license. And although we can do things on cable in the license, obviously, we cannot regulate cable rates in any way. As a result of that is why Comcast refused to put any senior discount in the license. They said we can't regulate it. The only way a town can, and Verizon doesn't have any discounts, by the way, not even $2, not even $1, and they're competing against Comcast. Comcast is competing against Verizon, which provides, in like 125 towns, provides no discounts whatsoever. So then Comcast's position is if we will never negotiate a senior discount amount, it will always be the uniform standard discount, take it or leave it, unfortunately. But I have to say, to put it in overall context, even though, as Peter said in his comments, they reserve their rights to total rate deregulation, which Congress gave them, just to put it for the public, because that's so frustrating. There really is no other industry, though. Oh, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Even though, in fairness to Comcast, even though it's so disappointing to have total rate deregulation, to put it in fair context, they are the only industry using the public ways. You could look at electric, you could look at telephone, you could look at power companies of any kind. They are the only industry that does give back up to 5% of their gross revenues to each community of service. So while they have no rate negotiations, they do at least sit down and meet and give something back to each community, like 3 local channels, a studio and whatnot, and capital equipment on top of the 5%. So, from it's the grand bargain of the Cable Act is they have to give something to each community to support local programming facilities, and in order for them to get that in the Cable Act, they had to have rate deregulation. So we can't really. They will not improve upon $2. They won't go to 201. They won't go to 210. It's a slippery slope for them because then every town and city in the country will be negotiating rates, which we don't have legal authority to do.
Can I just add one thing to that? So when Bill did send me this first side letter, I immediately sent him an email back saying, I remember during the ascertainment hearing that was one point that came from this board, and I said, can we really look into this a little bit more? and see if there's any other communities that have a different agreement, and there was none. There's no community in Massachusetts that has a different agreement, so we don't have didn't have a leg to.
I mean, I can understand how cable works because I'm involved in another community with a cable package for a group of, for a condominium group, and they have to negotiate, every so often. And I understand, they have broadcast fees, and that's sometimes when you're looking at regular television, you're going to see this, we're going to discontinue this channel, blah, blah, blah. Well, a lot of it has to do is because they have to negotiate. And there's a lot of hedging on a lot of people because now of the streaming services, and some people are losing channels because they're going to streaming service. I understand that, but as I said, I am so glad that this is now going on 2 years ago that I proposed the town start looking into its own internet service, because I think we can probably do a whole lot better than Comcast, reach out more people in Comcast, offer better discounts in Comcast, especially to those who need it. This is one of those licenses and contracts that you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Really, literally. Because I know for a fact Verizon's not going to come in here with with whatever fiber optics things, because they said a long time ago the New Bedford area is an area that they are not interested in upgrading their equipment. They basically said, what you have for what we have, our equipment, you're stuck with it. So Verizon's not interested in coming in here, at least with cable, until maybe it becomes, satellite or, 10G or whatever the hell they want to call it. So I understand that, and sometimes you have to go with the horse you know versus the horse you don't know. And right now, I'm not sure where I'm going to go.
Any other board members? Ms. Brooks?
Great job.
Thank you.
10-year contract, should, within those 10 years, we come back with a proposition of creating a broadband service for our town, when I read through it, I didn't find anything that this was, and I may have read right through it, we're on the hook we're signing for 10 years, but to break it, if 6 years from now we've created something.
No, it doesn't. It does not. This contract, as written, does not stop the town from investing, developing, and having their own broadband internet service.
In addition to Comcast.
It may. I don't
That's
think the
correct.
Town, I don't think the town
Right.
wants to get involved in cable television, which, by the way, I'll be honest. I'll tell you this right now. If it wasn't for the public access aspects of Comcast, we wouldn't have DCTV. DCTV does a hell of a job, and I know DCTV is nationally recognized in some of the programming that they do.
Yes.
So, that's the one good thing. That's one good thing about this whole thing that came
And their
about.
biggest funding source is through this
Right.
contract.
So, I
Mr.
mean,
Rogers,
this is
you
where
gonna say
I'm
something?
like,
Go ahead.
Right, this is a non-exclusive license, so if the town ever developed a broadband competitive service or a competitive cable service, this license could not be clearer that the town can provide any kind of competitive service. It is subject to a level playing field clause, and that you'd have to come in with comparable terms and service if it were like a cable service.
Any other?
I do just want to say on that point, there's very specific laws on how you can kick out a current provider. And, Comcast hasn't come close to meeting any of those, clauses that would allow the town to actually not renew their license or kick them out. So.
Let's move on.
See if anybody wants to talk.
We want to bring
Close
in
the public.
members of the public.
Yeah, bring,
You
yeah,
gonna read this in
I already read it.
for the members? Okay.
I read that.
Do we have members of the public want to speak at this point in time?
For or
In favor?
against?
No one step forward?
Against?
Members of the public who are against?
Hearing none.
No one step forward. Peter, you're not against it, are you? Okay, good.
Now, hearing none, you can
Hearing
close
none.
the hearing.
Right, we're going to close that hearing. And this is the part we're going to read here now.
Thank you, Peter.
Go right ahead.
You want me to,
Yes.
you want me to read it?
Finish it up, Mr. Gonzalez.
It's
So
big,
we
big
have to
print.
make, I think we have to make a motion, don't we,
Let's
first?
read that, it's right in there.
That's right there.
Very technical.
All right, motion for Comcast franchise renewal vote by Dartmouth Select Board. Acting in its capacity as a statutory cable television franchise, issuing authority pursuant to Mass General Law 166A, and finding that the cable franchise renewal proposal on Comcast of Southern New England, Inc., Comcast, reasonably meets the franchise and cable-related renewal needs and interests of the public in town, and finding that Comcast's financial and technical qualifications and local programming channels, facilities, and services are reasonable to meet town cable franchise needs, and based on recommendations of the town's renewal negotiations team, to approve the proposed Comcast renewal franchise. The Dartmouth Select Board hereby, if we vote in favor, would approve the Comcast proposal renewal franchise effective September 6, 2023, and associated supporting documents include Comcast's institutional network fiber use agreement for continued operation of existing institutional network, interconnecting municipal buildings.
That's the motion.
That's the motion. We have a second on that motion?
The date that Stanley read in there was September 6th.
September 6, 2023.
Today is
Is that the
September
correct date, or should it be today?
Backdated, okay, and we're, okay.
Yeah, that's the correct date.
September 6th.
Okay, it's correct date.
We didn't want there to be a gap from the expiration of the existing one, so they agreed to cover
Didn't
Okay,
want
then I'll
5 free
second
days
that.
of cable.
that period
I have a second.
for
Any
3 days.
discussion
so
on
there
the
would
motion?
Be no.
Any discussion on the motion? We're going to vote from the motion. Mr. Gracie has joined us, so we're ready to vote.
You still have to vote.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Come back to me.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
I guess so.
I guess so. Okay. The chair votes yes.
We don't have much choice.
Yeah,
can
you
vote
do.
no.
Yeah, you do. You want my vote?
Yes.
I'm voting no,
Okay,
because I'm not happy with the discount for the seniors and for the low income. Sorry.
okay,
I don't care if we can't do anything about it. I want something done.
okay.
So I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Aye.
No crying. Okay, 4-1 in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Any questions? Peter, all set?
Thank you, Bill.
Bye-bye, Bill.
Thank you all. It's great to be back. I've been doing licenses with Dartmouth for many years. It's always great to be back.
We'll see you in 9 years.
We also appreciate your good comments about Peter. He does a fantastic job for us. Thank you for
Fantastic
making that up.
job. And I just have to say, if you can just bear 10 seconds, that on a personal note, I've been, some of our friends now, like one of my colleagues has been going down to Westport, so I get into your neck of the woods now, and boy, you guys live in paradise. Just so beautiful down there. It's just amazing.
Don't say that too loud.
Ha!
We appreciate
no,
that.
I've really been seeing the sights down there. It's unreal.
Not
Okay,
only
take care.
not only do we live in paradise, but we got some great people living with us. So,
Just unbelievable. The rivers, the beaches. Yeah. See you. Take care.
okay, thank you, Bill.
Bye.
Sign it.
Who wants to call Comcast and get them on customer service? Let's see how it goes.
See how that works. You know, it ain't gonna happen.
Okay, time to move on. Next, we have a hearing on the application of acceptance of Kyle Jacob Road as a public way.
Okay, just remember, open up the hearing.
Yeah, right there.
Okay, open up the hearing.
Open it up.
You gotta open it, bang.
Okay.
Keep going that way.
Okay, we are going to call this open hearing, thank you, to order. We read the notice, what it's for. I'd like to introduce the applicant. The applicant will state his or her name and address for the record, and then describe the matter to the board and the public. Sir?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. McGinnis, these, this hearing plus the next three, are they all in the same location?
No, 3 of them are.
Can we take,
This one's
would it be possible to take all 3 at the same time?
No,
Okay, just asking for,
Moving along.
unfortunately.
want to get them home, want to get them
We have
home to
town
their
council there
families
to
so
confirm
that
it.
they don't have to suffer through this like we do.
And all the 10,000 people watching us.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Neil Smola for the petitioner, Miguel Soares on behalf of Riverside Woods Trust. Here on a petition for acceptance of Kyle Jacob Road as a public way. It's off Chase Road. I understand that the board, town council at least, that the board should have everything that they need as far as the application, the attorney certificates of title, and plans, easements, partial releases from the mortgagees. I think the board may be waiting on an original release. I think we had forwarded a PDF copy, so we can provide that to the board tomorrow.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Start off with.
Kyle Jacob, is this the road that's just right after Old Westport Road that people light up in Christmas time?
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a nice place,
that
too.
it?
Yeah.
It's right
No,
next
it's, it's, I know, this is going to date myself. It's a must-see when it comes time for the senior citizens
Bring
to
my
go around
kids.
there.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay. I just, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's turn it into a boat. Yeah, I have no problem with this. I mean,
You didn't have a problem before.
no, not really.
Any other
I just wanted to make
questions
sure
from
it
the
was the
board?
right road.
Next step from this is to go to town meeting.
Well,
So
that's,
this is-
yeah.
It's going to go through this process. Exactly right.
They
But
need a-
now it is for, you need pub,
Okay, now, we're going to move on to...
no,
Nope.
no. Mr. Chairman, just out of curiosity. All right, so we've heard the proponent, so now we want public comment for, public comment against.
That's what I was going to do.
Okay, all right.
We're going to, I need to call on anybody who wants to speak in favor of the motion. Anybody in favor? Seeing none, anybody against wants to come up, step forward? Seeing none? No one spoken matter, okay. We're going to close the public hearing.
Okay. Board comment?
Any comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, to make a motion to accept
Second.
and to recommend this to town meeting.
Any comments?
Oh.
Yep. Uh-oh.
He's a tough cookie.
Here comes,
Oh, boy.
here comes the town pitbull,
Yes,
I mean,
Chair.
our attorney.
Brian Cruz, Assistant Town Council. Just as a clarification, you as a board are not accepting the way. You will be laying the way out and allowing town meeting the opportunity to accept the way.
Okay, so I make a motion that we lay out
The way as shown in
way as shown in the plan. Okay.
And I will second that.
All right. We,
Very technical.
you know how long it's been since this board has done a street acceptance?
That's why
Yeah, thank you.
Longer than we've been on the board.
Yeah, really.
Not that long.
It's been a long, no, it's been,
12 years that I've been
it's
on the
been
board.
at least, yeah, it's been at least
Okay,
13 years.
are we ready to vote?
No?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Gracie.
What?
He seconded the motion.
Okay, thank you. I thought I heard a second. You ready to vote? Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. It passes. Moved on to town meeting.
Okay.
Wow, okay. Obviously, okay, we're going to move on to the public hearing on application for acceptance of Ivy Way as a public way. Ivy Way. Anybody here?
Yeah, we have two of the homeowners association members here.
Okay.
A bunch of other neighborhood folks.
You want
Anybody.
Someone step forward?
Just to basically say we're,
Introduce yourself and tell us about it.
Sure.
Benjamin?
Benjamin Fernandez, on behalf of the Enclave HOA and Ivy Way, Magnolia Lane and Sunflower Drive, we believe we've filled all of the town requirements and would like to push this forward to the town meeting in approximately a month.
We are going to do them separately, so you can stay right there.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Motion to lay out the way.
Hang on.
no.
Hang on, please. Sorry for this, a bunch of rookies here. Anybody in the public who wants to speak in favor? Anybody who wants to speak against? You made it. Okay. We're going to close the public hearing on Ivy Way and
Saying that, lay out the way to the application acceptance of Ivy Way as a public way.
Second.
discussion. Let's vote. Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks? Chair votes yes. We're getting better at this now. We're picking up some steam. Okay.
Benjamin, you're up
People
again.
voted for us. I can't believe it. Okay, next. Public hearing on acceptance of application of acceptance of Magnolia Lane as a public way.
Benjamin Fernandez, speaking on behalf of the Enclave at the HOA, Enclave at the Reservoir, requesting permission to move into the town meeting in about a 1 month time frame. We believe we have submitted all of the requirements to enter into that town meeting.
Well done. Any comments from the deliberations from the board? Anyone who want to step forward in favor? Anyone who want to step forward against? Deliberations are over. I need a motion.
Motion to lay out the way, application of acceptance of Magnolia Lane as a public way.
Second. Second. Any comments or questions? Let's vote. Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 4-0. Next, hearing. 5-0, that's correct.
5-0.
Thank you. Hearing an application of acceptance of Sunflower Drive as a public way.
Benjamin Fernandez, speaking on behalf of the Enclave HOA, proposing we move Sunflower Drive to the town meeting in approximately a month. We believe all the requirements have been met.
Great job, Ben.
Getting better.
You know how town government moves, huh? You're doing great. Okay. Any comments from the board? Anyone in the public want to come forward in favor? Anyone against? The deliberations are over. We're going to close that public hearing. Mr. I need a motion.
Motion to lay out the way, application of acceptance of Sunflower Drive as a public way.
Second.
Second. Discussions? None. Let's vote. Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks? The chair votes yes, 5-0 in favor. You're all done.
Gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Good job,
Appreciate your patience.
Benjamin.
It was harder work than it had to be, I guess, huh? Okay.
Brian, can you just stick around?
We're going to stay with this. Stay in order? Okay.
Well, Christine's not here, but Brian can answer any questions.
Yeah, she was here.
They should have a meeting
Oh,
inside,
yeah,
so.
okay. Okay, next on the agenda,
Used to be my neighbor.
Planning Board warrant article review. Christine O'Grady is not here, but I believe we have town council available to us.
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis,
So,
Didn't she?
Christine was here. I think she was.
the meeting.
She has a meeting, though, I think. Just as part of the warrant preparation, we generally have some of the applicants come in to present their warrant articles, and generally the planning board, the planning director comes in. Christine O'Grady, our planning director, has been working closely with Attorney Cruz on the planning board town meeting article, and if Attorney Cruz wants to come in and just update the board on the details of the article, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks for saving us from the possible tremendous illegality there.
It's not a problem. Brian Cruz, Assistant Town Council. Being somewhat on the spot, and I don't want to misstate the details, but the summary of the proposal from the planning board for this warrant article is twofold. One is to update to some degree the definitions in the zoning bylaw, and the second is to, and as well as to add some new definitions for terms that are, are used in the bylaw but never actually defined. And then the second aspect is to create a use table, which is, I think, the primary focus, really. A lot of towns do this where, a developer or a homeowner can turn to a page and they can see consolidated every single use, and whether it's as of right, by special permit, and if so, who the special permit granting authority is for every district. It's just a big matrix, and no one has to flip through 70 pages of the zoning bylaw to try to figure out what approvals they need for a particular use in a particular district. So that, I think, is really the primary purpose of this article, is to get that in there. So in terms of substantive change, there are some additional definitions, but for the most part, this is really a reorganization to allow people to find things more quickly in the bylaw.
Anybody have any comments or
I mean,
questions?
it seems logical. It's Article
Makes sense,
13.
yeah.
Everything is here. It's a lot of Ps, NPs, SPPs, and all that, but still.
A lot of initials.
Yeah, so, it's permit, special permit, and then, my understanding, again, I don't remember the abbreviations off the top of my head, but it'll be an abbreviation for special permit ZBA, special permit select board, special permit planning board, whoever the permit granting authority happens to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 3 permits that come before us anyway, and that has to do with utilities, steam, electric, and commercial wind, so.
Any other comments to help us out, Brian?
That, I know, there's not a huge substantive change with this article.
Right.
It's to make it more user-friendly.
Great.
It looks like it could be, too. We'll see what happens.
There's no vote required. It's just an update.
We'll see what happens after it's published.
It's a planning board application.
Right.
Okay, thank you. The question, with no vote necessary. This is going to town meeting as it is. Okay, next. Police Conditional Officer of Employment. Offer, what did I say, offer? Offer, okay. Wow. I had a bad night, I'm sorry.
You read it exactly as it's printed here, offer.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
It's Brian Levesque, Police Chief.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, good evening, members of the board. I have here tonight Sullivan Souza. He's currently a police officer in Acushnet. I've been doing that since 2020. He's a graduate of the 3rd recruit officer class at Cape Cod Municipal Police Academy, currently assigned to the 4 to 12 relief in Acushnet. He's also a certified mountain bike trainer, as well as a taser instructor. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Franklin Pierce University, and he's active in the community of Acushnet, participated in the Special Olympics. He's been a Dartmouth resident since 2021, and he comes highly recommended from his supervisors and peers. Acushnet has approved the lateral transfer of Officer Sullivan Souza to Dartmouth. I'm requesting a conditional offer of employment be issued to him to allow us to continue with our screening process.
Okay.
Comments or questions?
I'd like to hear from
We will.
the officer in question. First of all, I thought he was an attorney for one other thing, so it's good to know that he's a police officer
He doesn't look
instead.
like he doesn't look like
Makes
an
it a lot,
attorney to me.
makes it a lot easier right now.
What kind of attorneys do you use?
All shapes and sizes, believe it or not.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm glad to see enough strong.
Souza.
Okay.
Anything you want to add to the bio from the chief?
I think he kind of covered everything. I'll just add that, I'll make 3 years in October being in the town of Dartmouth. No complaints, and I think, I like the community. I grew up in Acushnet, hence why I got hired by Acushnet, but I moved on with my life. I've relocated, and I think in today's world, it's more important to build a relationship with the community you live in, as opposed to who you work with.
Sounds
great.
good to me.
I'd like to,
Yeah, go ahead.
Gary, I'd like to offer Dominic Sullivan Souza a application for
condition
employment.
of employment.
An conditional offer of employment.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions from anybody? Let's vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks? Yes. Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 5-0, unanimous. Welcome. We're glad to
Board.
have you.
Thank you.
Now the commute home is a lot shorter.
Chief, thanks for waiting as far as. Okay,
He's some big kid.
okay. Now we have an employee introduction, Magnolia McCormick. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, as you know, we have a new position in town, the communications coordinator position. Magnolia McComish is our new communications coordinator in town, and She started last Tuesday. She's hit the ground running, and she's here to introduce herself and talk about what she's done to date.
Hi, Magnolia McComish. Very excited to start this job in Dartmouth Town Hall. Previously, I was working at the Dartmouth Week newspaper, and I've lived in Dartmouth for just over 6 months now. And a really great area. I really enjoy being here, and I'm excited to continue promoting an area that I've really come to love, but not as a native, which I think gives an interesting perspective, which I'll bring to this position. In my first 5 days, I have developed a press release about the creation of my position and what I'm going to be doing, which is acting as a liaison between Dartmouth and the press, or anyone else who really has press-related questions or things of that nature. I developed a list of state media contacts, most of which I acquired in my time at the newspaper, so that was able to transfer over pretty easily. I've started to introduce myself to different department heads and just people in town hall, becoming a friendly face, just sort of rebranding myself, really, because I know a lot of people, but now they know that I'm an ally. I'm on their side now to promote the good work they're doing. I've been doing a lot of work with the social media, trying to get it all to be one idea being pushed forward across every platform to reach more people. I've been updating the town's website. I created a page for the Public Information Office, which is myself, so that way when press comes to the town and wants to know things, they know where to go. There's a platform for it, which I know there's a need for, so I'm glad that's been created. And then I've been doing most of my work with the Engage Dartmouth platform, really creating a platform where people can come directly to the town to get information, and it isn't just Facebook back and forth about what may or may not be happening. There's a channel to really get the information reliably and in a way that's user-friendly. Moving forward, I'm going to be meeting with department heads and determining projects that they want help promoting and letting the community know about. I'm going to reach out to different organizations that also play a role in these projects and initiatives. So, for example, SERPED with the master plan and things of that nature. And develop a big message about the good work that's being done in town that directly benefits the residents, whether that be promotion of the parks getting redone or housing developments coming in or things that we think might not be in the best interest of the community, letting them know that these are things they might want to know more about before they go to town meeting and things of that nature.
Comments? Ms. Brooks.
Magnolia.
Welcome.
And I think this is great. It's our first opportunity to have this position, and the fact that you were the reporter on Dartmouth Week, and so you know what it was like to get information, and now you have this other lens to say, how do I push out information better? I'm glad that there's someone on board looking at the website and cleaning that up, and the Engage Dartmouth portal is really very important for people who are new to the town and people who have been here forever but have a new question. So I'm glad that you have new eyes on it, so welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. McDonald?
Yeah, I agree that this position is necessary, but I think what really is important is getting the information out to the general public on items that really not so much affect their health and well-being, but mostly affect their daily life. Somebody wants to come from Barney's Joy Road and wants to go to work in Providence, and then all of a sudden they drive on Chase Road and they find out that Chase Road's closed because the construction's going on and they weren't aware of it. Well, it starts their day off with a bang. I think that's where your position comes in important, because when Tim has work going on in the DPW and he needs to get the word out, that people get the word and understand that this is what's going on to avoid that area. We know that once July comes about, we know there's an influx of monies, and that's when the DPW is the most active in a lot of their street reconstructions and whatnot. Is that time frame. and we know it just dies out in the wintertime unless there's an absolute emergency. So this is where this is important too. And what's also important is to get the word out that, each department, what are departments doing? Board of Health, Dolores Joseph, and the Youth Advocate. I think this is where this is going to be the most effective use of your position. And I look forward to seeing good things. On a personal note, I saw your webpage. Where your own personal webpage.
Okay.
I can see where this is going to go in this position. It's very well done. I can see where you're enthusiastic about it, and I look forward to seeing your work over the next several years.
Thank you.
Mr. Gracie, I think?
No, I'm good.
I just want to add, I had the privilege of being involved in the process, and Maggie was the absolute first and best choice for me personally, as well as our group. But what I found striking was there are very progressive towns in Massachusetts who are taking on this position. And they're the ones interested in letting the public know what's going on in town, whether it be construction roads or the next 5 and 10 years worth of cleaning up our water, our septic systems, and our sewer systems, and how it affects people, and our long-range planning where people can know what we're looking at and what's most important, be it a school building or be it our water system. I see that as a really, people can, the more they're informed, the more they'll be reasonably accepting of what we're trying to do here. And I think she's right on time. And there are also different platforms, whether it be Facebook or a website or a town engagement page. There's ways to reach people in different ways, and I know that Maggie's very involved in trying to make sure we're reaching them in the best ways. And also we'll be in contact with other towns that are ahead of us maybe, or have some suggestions, so we don't have to duplicate the wheel. We can reinvent the wheel. We can just jump on, and she can do the same for others. So I'm really enthused about it. She's right in Sean's office here. She can't escape. She's going to be reporting to Sean directly on a day-to-day basis. This is a really critically important position, and I'm really finally have someone on board. Sean's been talking about this for a while. So welcome aboard, and I look forward to working with you too.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
What do you prefer, Mags?
It's, Magnolia Way, Maggie Road.
No,
Magnolia Way. I want to call you Ivy Way, get confused. Now we're going to talk to the most patient group of the night. I'm sorry to have kept you all waiting here, but the wheels of government sometimes can work a little slow, but thank you. The Dartmouth Cultural Center proposed improvements.
Good evening. Hi there.
Oh.
I'm behind the podium. I'm here tonight to introduce our architect, who is going to give you a good presentation. This, I think, is her first time before a town, because she's in New Bedford, and she's gone for City Hall and the council there. So this is a good evening for her to see how we run our town and our town government.
She didn't leave yet.
No, she's still with us, thank goodness. So without further ado, they're setting up their PowerPoint for you, and I think you're going to enjoy the presentation. This is what we're doing to save a historic building in Dartmouth. This is what can happen to our old police station. Looking forward.
Nice segue, Ms. Silva. No public hearing on that. No public hearing.
Oh, I think Buddy Baker is on screen.
Buddy's on here, yeah, because they have a CPC request as well. And Chris Vitale's been working with them.
Introduce the two of us. So this is Sherry McTighe, and I'm Captain Duff with Studio to Sustain in New Bedford, and it's an honor to be here tonight. We're here because we're in the throes of going for CPA funding through your CPC committee,
and we've been before the CPC Committee and the Dartmouth Historic Commission. And now we're here before you requesting the funding be placed on the ballot for your town meeting next month. Okay, so not sure how. Yeah.
Probably not mirrored your screen. Probably.
Okay.
Comcast internet again, huh?
So you've done some work with the Lloyd Center.
They've done a lot of work at the Lloyd Center. The ongoing work at the Lloyd Center, actually, which is really exciting. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. Okay, there we go.
Magnolia, just another thing in Dartmouth, the Lloyd Center.
So, yeah, still at the Lloyd Center. I think they're going to bury me at the Lloyd Center, actually. Like Enid said, we're based in New Bedford, but we're obviously do work in Dartmouth as well, and we're thrilled to be working with DCC because the building is amazing. I mean, it's a real treasure. And like I said, we're going for funding for CPC effectively to match the funding that's been raised by the Dartmouth Cultural Center. So they secured a Cultural Facilities Fund grant, which is through the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and it's the fiduciary oversight is done through Mass Development. So the actual grant award comes from Mass Development, but it's part of the Massachusetts Cultural Council Facilities Fund granting, and given to cultural organizations around the state for valid capital projects. And the committee, all volunteer, I want to make the point, we're successful in securing a $160,000 grant through MCC. And that grant is a matching grant, so you have to match those funds. And a portion can be matched through some services, in-kind services, but effectively they look for you to match it with either a capital campaign or other grant sources. And so that was really the start of them trying to raise money. Now, part of the stipulation is if you receive a grant through MCC, you have to do a systems replacement planning study. And you have to use the organization that, I think this is your Comcast carrier. We just lost your connection.
It might come back.
Yeah.
Wait, here's Peter.
So not sure. So down here? I don't think I stepped on anything. These darn Macs too, they can be a little.
There we go.
Okay. So they actually did a planning grant through MCC, and they used their consultant called Olive Branch. It seems a little
disconnect.
Shame. Is it the laptop?
Okay, I'm gonna just be really. Oh.
Yeah, really.
I don't think that's the. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Okay, so they secured a planning grant.
Just go right through it.
Yeah, $16,000 planning grant, and that grant, $8,000 was awarded through MCC, and then they had to, the Dartmouth Cultural Center raised another $8,000 for that planning. Once they completed that with Olive Branch, it was an itemization of a 10-year study of what needed to be done to the building right away, and and long-term planning were some of the replacement costs that will be forthcoming in the next 10 years. So from that planning grant, we did a feasibility study and looked at what were the most critical issues that needed to be addressed and put together a feasibility study. Of those, and I think we passed it out to the board, a summary of those studies that you received prior to this meeting. The handicap access to the building was really the most important. And that's first priority as part of this project, the exterior restoration, the envelope, which includes a lot of the repointing of the masonry, the repainting, the repair of the windows, gutters and downspouts. That was the second priority as part of this overall grant. And then the interior renovations, again, to address some of those systems replacements, in effect of the HVAC system. There's no ventilation system in the building, and looking to get to a more efficient heat pump technology with some of the interior improvements. And that also would include LED lighting and replacement of in some of the light fixtures and getting some gallery lighting in the spaces. So the total request this evening is $260,000. That was the application to the CPC committee. And like I said, of that, they have raised $160,000. And the total project cost for all three of these priorities is $420,000. And I want to be crystal clear about it. There's a lot of work to the building. We're only touching the interior. They really see this as a long-term vision for the building, for the restoration. I would say this is phase one of a long-term plan for the building. But the most important, there's no handicap access to this building. It's really critical that that we make some improvements to allow people who are, challenged, ambulatory challenged, to be able to have access to the building. Yeah. It's really tricky, this little...
So what I can see on the paperwork that was...
about that.
No, it's not you, it's us. What I see on the paperwork that you submitted to us in our packet, the access would come off of a parking spot off of the Elm Street driveway, and then a ramp that would take us into a newly created entrance.
Right, which is where there's an existing window, so so it would use that opening as a transom, keeping it its historic profile.
So everyone would have access to that first floor.
Correct, with a new ADA bathroom on that.
As well, I see
They
that.
would have classes on the first floor open to the public.
Nice.
So was that not a parking area for one car? Isn't this what we were talking about?
I think it fits 2 cars, Stan.
2 cars, 1 car, but it was a parking area.
Correct.
Right.
Existing curb cut.
And it will be continually still be a parking area?
For handicap.
Handicap parking, yes.
Parking spot.
For 2 automobiles.
Well, we know definitely one with a loading area.
Okay.
And the second parking lot, there would be a small vehicle, but
okay.
we haven't gotten to that phase.
We feel confident that we
definitely
could
can
get
the one with
we can get a parking spot and an offloading for a handicapped vehicle and a
Great.
compact car next to it.
Great, yeah.
It's needed. The building, there's a lot of programs offered at the community center and a lot of displays offered at the community center and classes, and it's absolutely needed so that everyone has access to this space.
The building's on the National Registry, so everything we do, anything we would touch has to be aligned with the Secretary of Interior standards, and it would be coordinated. We would file a PNF with the Massachusetts Historic Commission. That's a project notification form, and you do that to the Commonwealth anytime you have a...
I was up there for a second.
Project that...
Okay, good.
Keep my distance. Anytime you have a project that's where you're working on a building that's on the National Registry. And so this is the lion's share of the work that we do. We're known for sustainability work. We do what we call deep energy retrofits to a lot of historic buildings. So we like to say we preserve them, but we preserve them not just for this decade, we preserve them for the next 150 to 200 years. So We like to get them to a point where they function well, they're healthy, the buildings are preserved, and they're less costly often for us anyways, our nonprofit clients to own and operate. And we would bring the same approach here as well, so.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to see this magnificent building finally getting the access that you've been looking for as long as I can imagine, since day one when you took that project on. And everything, it seems to me, everything you put your hands around, you've made it work. And I can't tell you how happy I am to be part of it. Thank you very much.
I would just simply add, echoing Mr. Mickelson, but also I've had a working relationship with Studios to Sustain. You picked the absolute best architect. They're designed to do exactly the work you're looking to get done.
Great job.
Thank you very much.
Respect for what
Great
you do. I had a question regarding the lease. The lease is very short, and your business is and your construction is very long. Is that something we should be looking at down the road because we're putting all this time and work into it? And money?
Funny you should say that. It would seem sensible, wouldn't it? I don't think we're going anywhere. We are a group of very dedicated people that are not paid one penny to do this, but realize the extent of our efforts will be treasured for thousands of years after us. And if we were to extend, if the town were to extend our lease, that would be a very sweet topping on this little cake we're planning. But that isn't up to me.
Should be our pleasure.
It should be.
You can bring a message back to the board? We should.
Makes you a lot more friendly than
Or the board is
Comcast.
here.
Mr. McGinnis, the town meeting article that allowed the town to enter into long-term agreements, can this building be folded into that, or would it have to be a
It would have
separate
to be
article?
a new article.
Okay, then let's get one for June.
I just suggest is we get this ball rolling, so maybe look towards June town
Yes.
meeting, whatever we can do to make it work.
Thank you very much.
As a matter of fact, Mr. McGinnis, let's make that an all-encompassing article, because I believe we also lease the Russell Mills Library.
Yes.
So we can, if we can, any of the buildings other than the land, if there's buildings that the town leases, let's make it an all-encompassing article so we can roll them in and just have discussions with them at a later time.
Make it optional, but available to do.
Correct.
Want to speak at all? You'll have to come up to the,
Hi, Tom Leverett. I write grants for the Dartmouth Cultural Center. And
Hey, you did a good job.
A lot of foundations
For
asked me,
$160.
If we had a longer lease, they would give us the money. But since we don't, it's difficult.
let's get it rolling.
Yeah. I think we'll be able to accommodate you.
Ms. Silva?
I'm glad that you put the comment about the Russell's Mills School and their lease, because as you realize, the Historic and Art Society just put Dartmouth's historic papers on the map and also on Ancestry.com. We're now part of all of the history that people are looking for their roots. And Dartmouth's history goes back to the 1600s, and those Quakers kept some darn good records. Pardon my darn. I think they're both organizations are close to my heart, and I thank you for thinking that they need to have a longer footprint in that building, both buildings, so they can do the right thing by the town.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Anything else for the architect team?
One thing.
Right ahead.
So we are very supportive of this project. The CPC, as part of their review of the project and the funding, asked us to look into some issues related to procurement and design management. So I had, as this is a municipal building that's occupied by a nonprofit, you've heard me mention many times, the state has very strict procurement laws and guidelines that need to be followed. We want to make sure they're followed correctly. I had Chris contact the state's Attorney General's office to get an opinion on who is responsible for the work, how the procurement needs to be done. You see that memo in your packet. There's some options here where the leasee can act as the town's agent. They still need to follow the state's procurement guidelines, and we can certainly help to assist with that. But there's a number of criteria involved in that relate to procuring the architect. So while you've been contributing to that, these are things that need to be worked on where a project, anything over $300,000 in construction costs or $30,000 in design costs, needs to go through the state's procurement process. So the memo is in your packet from Chris. He can answer some questions. We will certainly follow up and present it to the Dartmouth Cultural Center and provide support we can. We just want to make sure that the procurement is done properly. Because it's on the town's responsibility and liability if it's not. So we want to make sure that we're not facing any fines or penalties. So Chris can answer questions. We can provide more detail to the Cultural Council outside of this meeting so they can kind of absorb it and understand it, and then they can come back. But we did provide this memo to the CPC because Buddy Baker-Smith and the committee had asked for it, so that's in their packet as well. So I just wanted to make sure that the board and everyone's aware that we want to make sure that we're following the procurement guidelines.
Sounds like a perfect recipe for many frustrations and
unfortunately,
long terms.
yes, but we will do our best to support the project and help you to kind of move forward because everyone is supportive of the project.
Well,
we've signed.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Don't say you've committed to anything.
Yes.
Just yet.
They give us a whole procedure of what we're supposed to do.
Yes. And
it's part of the agreement for the 160,000.
Oh, that, the
Right.
grantees have given you.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, right. So in addition to the procurement process for the public bidding, then we have a procurement process for the matching grants, right? And the CPC probably has a procurement process for their disbursement of monies as well. But the lead would be, in our experience in working on public bid projects with the town of, with the city of New Bedford is the public bid process, especially with nonprofit organizations, want to really partner with the town of Dartmouth on that, the front end documents and the bidding process, so.
When in doubt, ask.
I can take the
Also to
easy way
mention
out.
that when we put together that budget that you have, we considered the 25% increase for prevailing wages for federal projects, so.
The biggest ouch.
Having Uncle Johnny build the porch in the back's not going to work.
No, unfortunately, there's a process you go through, but it's, if we all work together, we'll get it done, so.
Well, I can take the easy way out and say, let's get this done, period.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Anybody?
I have a small thought. When we get going, and we need to have the connection between the town and our DCC board. When we have meetings, I'd like to have someone representing the town as a permanent person, not one that comes and goes, because this is going to be a long procedure, even though it's only phase one. So if we could designate having someone from the financial end of it, so we know that everything that we are doing is agreed upon by the town, and we're not going out and getting our names put in the black because we didn't know. We want to have someone that's there as a permanent person representing the town, and not someone that just comes and goes.
Mr. Chairman,
Like a FinCom.
I have the perfect person for
You're
this job.
volunteering.
No, I have the perfect person for this job, and he's right out there. He's got a nice blue shirt on. He's got some hearing. He's got some earbuds in. I think Mr. Vitale would be the perfect person for this job. Right, Chris?
Welcome to Dartmouth, Chris.
Happy to help wherever I can.
He didn't step forward, he stepped backwards.
No, I think it's only
Okay with
logical.
you, Sean?
I agree. I was going to recommend Chris
Logical.
because he knows procurement and he can help with the
Right,
process.
exactly.
My final thought is that this could end up to be tripping over one another because we don't follow the rules. We got to ask questions because you got a lot of rules to follow. Great presentation. Good luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The video was fantastic. Yeah.
Chris does want to speak.
Oh, Chris, go right ahead.
Will you be doing a similar presentation to the town meeting?
Yes.
So Peter Chase, who was out here helping you, before town meeting starts, just see him that night.
Okay. Does town meeting have their own computer?
I would bring the PowerPoint on a thumb drive.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Be really interested in this. There'd be a lot of interest in town meeting members
Okay,
watching.
great. Yeah, and Chris, you know, he's been great. We've emailed him quite a few times back and forth, so.
So he's not unfamiliar.
Chris, you got something you want to say?
Very brief. So I know when I reached out to the Attorney General's office, they had a few different questions just because of the nature of the project and it being at a town building. The one thing I will say is that depending on, if the terms of the lease change, so I know earlier you were just talking about maybe doing a long-term lease instead, that may change the procurement requirements depending on when this project actually takes place. So obviously I'll be working with the DCC and make sure that all the processes are followed, so.
Great. Sounds good.
Okay, terrific.
Anybody else? Great. Buddy, go right ahead, buddy.
Great, thanks. I just wanted to say that the CPC endorsed this project and recommendation to town meeting unanimously. The DCC has done a remarkable job, I think, of demonstrating a viable and use for this building, which is great. These past few years that they've been having programs there. The handicapped accessibility, and this will open up other doors for them in terms of cultural grants, and because they now will in the future have a facility that has handicapped access. We talked to the folks in reviewing the proposal, and it was important for us to identify this as phase one. There is additional work that needs to be and should be done for this center as it truly kind of develops into supporting the kinds of programs and exhibits that are possible there. So this first piece is addressing the handicapped accessibility, the critical repairs to the exterior and the HVAC system. But I just think it's important to see that there are other needs in the building, and there's a longer plan, and we should expect to see, with the success of this first phase, some additional work that will truly, I think, kind of make it a fantastic space for the arts in town.
Fantastic. Coming from Buddy, you can't beat that. Buddy's the essence. He's the guru. Thank you, Buddy. Anybody else on the subject? Okay, great.
Nope, that's a great
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you
Very much again for waiting for us.
Sorry to keep you.
Buddy, are you up next, buddy?
Yeah, I believe so. The other project warrant.
Hang on one sec while the room's clearing out.
No.
2 minutes. Okay. Now, the next on the agenda is a CPC warrant article review from Buddy Baker Smith.
Great. So we've just heard, we've had two project articles for town meeting in October. We've just heard one at the Cultural Center. The second is the Pascamanset Drinking Water Land Protection Project, which is the acquisition of about 196 acres off of Tucker Road that abuts the town's aquifer. This would be acquired by the town of Dartmouth, provide open space, land conservation, which not only would protect the town's aquifer, but in the future, possibility of other drilling for water, perhaps, possibility of public access in terms of walking trails, is all kind of potential for this piece of property as well. And the committee voted unanimously to recommend this project.
Okay.
Great.
Questions?
No.
No, he's just here to explain.
Any comments of any kind? Questions?
Other than, thank you, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. Next.
That is it for me.
DCC, which was presented, the Dartmouth Cultural Center.
Correct.
But Buddy can stick around because we have the draft MOU is on the agenda.
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, I got to bring up what's next. It's my job. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is the Dias-Upon-Agansett Landing Draft MOU for the CPC.
Right, so as part of the CPC award for the Dias Landing Marina project, they had asked for a memorandum of agreement between the Park Board and the Harbor Master on the use of the landing, specifically related to parking and maintenance. There's been a back and forth for a few months, but we have a draft that we think all parties will agree to. So I have it here before the board tonight. The Park Board has reviewed it. They have not finally voted on it yet, but I have confirmed that they are happy with it. And, you know, Buddy and CPC have requested it, so it's on the agenda for the board tonight to review and vote on. And it really just stipulates the existing process that's in place now for shared use during concerts mostly.
Any comments, Buddy?
Yes, this was a condition on the MOU for CPA funds that were approved for the Dias landing expansion project. And as we do with grant agreements and MOUs, sometimes there are conditions that we put on these that the CPC has put on. And so this came from the CPC out of a recognized opportunity and concern. So the concern was that the landing was going to be expanded, more use at that site. The opportunity being there has been this informal understanding and agreement about how the adjacent Upon-Agansett Park and the landing kind of collaborate and cooperate around things like the concert series and stuff like that. And so I think that the CPC felt that this was an opportunity to try to put down in writing for the future for people who will be around when many of us might not be in our positions, and particularly timely to do this before there's an increase in activity at that site that will only increase the pressure and the need to collaborate between those two properties and entities. And I have to say a big shout out to Sean for his work in getting to this point. You know, I think it was it really was when Sean got involved that things have really kind of moved along, and we're really grateful to for that. Thank you.
Questions or comments?
The only question I have, because it's an MOU between Parks and, I guess right now it says Parks and Select Board, but also the Harbor Master. So do we need the Harbor Master to sign off as well?
He's reviewed it and approved it. So but the Select Board is ultimately who would enter into the agreement with the Park Board.
The Harbor Master, the Waterways comes under.
Yeah, they're all involved.
I just want to make sure that they've.
I think that it's pretty clear with the wording.
You need to vote on this.
The responsibilities of each and every one of the people involved and the organizations involved.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we formalize the agreement as presented.
I'll second that.
Second. Any comments, questions? We're ready to vote.
Yeah, it looks great.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 5-0 in favor. Is Buddy all, no, Buddy's done?
Yep.
Buddy, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you, buddy.
All right. Thank you all. Take care.
Keep up the good work. We appreciate it.
I will try.
Okay. Next is Fall Town Meeting Warrant Review.
Mr. Chairman, can we take out of order the, I believe the next item, which is the, this isn't, I mean, there's no reason to keep.
He told me he wanted to listen to the whole meeting from start.
There's no reason to keep Superintendent Bobby here as
let's
long
put
as he
that-
has to.
Let's go to H, which would be the Assistant DPW Director Contract Ratification. Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Come on up, Tim.
Mr. Barber.
Tim Barber, Department of Public Works Director.
So let's just provide some context. So Tim, along with our HR Director Denise Bosang and myself, went through the interview process for candidates for the Assistant DPW Director. Tim helped to finalize an applicant, which we think is highly qualified. We've reviewed her qualifications and gone back and forth on the contract, and now the contract is in the board's packet. So if there's any questions on the process or anything, so not to throw you on the spot, Tim. But
Sure.
Okay.
Let's get down to it.
Looking for comments or questions from the board.
She has experience as an assistant, correct?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the contract and the hiring of Sandra Waterman as the Assistant Director of Public Works.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Comments, questions, discussion? My comment would be that there's so much going on in the DPW. The activity is tremendous. It's only going to get more and more. We have major projects ahead of us, and bringing in quality people who can do the job is now more critical than ever. And I think that Tim's ready for the challenge of taking on another new employee. And there's a lot of work for everybody out there. And judging by what's going to be going forward in the next 2 to 5 to 10 years, it'd be great to have a team together that Tim can work together with and make progress and work along with Mr. McGinnis, who's oversee that activity as the town administrator.
I just want to say that I'm pleased that we're getting someone that has worked in this position before and comes to Dartmouth with experience, because we really need someone that hits the ground running, not someone that needs a lot of training. But I do know that our concern was about having someone with the certification to stamp plans. And so Mr. McGinnis shared a plan with us to make sure that we can go forward in the department. And so that is the reason I'm supporting this candidate. Although she does not have that credential, I'm supporting her because we have a plan.
Yes. And she has tentatively agreed to pursue it, if we would work with her through the process, so.
Okay.
Okay, comments? We ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Mr. McConnell?
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
I have some concerns about this lady for this particular job, but her qualifications are good, and I don't want to put a dagger in any of this negotiations going further. I want the vote to be unanimous in support of this particular person for the Assistant DPW Director, so I will vote in the favor.
5-0.
The vote's 5-0. Thank you, everyone. I think that we found a candidate that can say yes or no and good or bad about, because there's issues there, but the main thing is that we found someone with a plan to go forward. And good luck, Mr. Barber, because it's a great challenge ahead of you, and we're with you all the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Don't forget to date it.
While Tim's standing here, I just want to thank you for offering the tours to individuals to look at the condition of the sewer treatment plant. It was very eye-opening, and just reiterate, a lot of work ahead of you.
It was great to have everybody at the facility, to tour and ask questions and learn about, what happens over there and see the work that goes on in the age of the facility. So, and, we may be opening up if there was anybody that didn't get to visit the facility, we could schedule another tour.
It was very eye-opening. I am someone that likes to turn on my valves and have water come out and flush and have water go away. And that's, prior to my visit, that's all I knew.
I would add, Ms. Brooks, I think it's a really important point, but our new communications director, with all the work that's going to be going forward, we look forward to doing on-site videos and information and whatever, so people can understand what's going on over there, the whole place.
I'm sure we'll be in a lot of communication together.
People have to know what's going on. So thank you. Thanks for waiting for us.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay.
Now go home.
What are you waiting for?
You might start.
We can take that out of order.
Let's get him out of here too.
Appreciate it.
We were told that maybe someone's coming, so.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't see you. You were behind the
I know,
the podium.
right?
I would have.
That's the one time I'm like so small, right? Normally I'm like, everyone's like.
If we had known, I would have called you sooner.
Oh,
so-
no, not at all. Not a
We
problem.
apologize.
Let me,
Really.
No, not at all.
let me
I'm
set,
from a town, so I appreciate getting to see how a town is run there.
let me set the stage for this, okay? On one-day licenses, usually I get to approve them. Mr. Beaver has applied for this one-day license. Mr. Beaver has now become technically a resident. Well, Mr. Beaver had purchased a condominium in a property that I manage.
Oh.
By the way, I am Sean McDonald, yes.
Nice to meet you. I've heard all about you and all the good work that you do.
I'm sure it's all true.
So not to have any kind of improprieties or anything like that, I asked Mr. McGinnis to give this to the board. So anytime Mr. Beaver has in his position at UMass Dartmouth is looking for a one-day license, as long as I'm on this board, I'm going to be abstaining from that, only on the basis that he is 1/12 owner of a property that I manage.
All right.
So, just to let you know.
Appreciate the open and honest.
Doesn't look like 1/12.
Well, no, he is 1/12.
Try to be.
He's probably the youngest one in the building, too, to be honest with you, so.
Probably by about 20 years, I'd
Probably,
say.
yeah, I would say that.
Anytime you get a problem, just come to our meeting.
There you go, there you go.
Okay, good.
All right.
Next, okay, so, what do you have for us?
Sure. Mike Beaver, Director of Alumni Relations at UMass Dartmouth. Just here to apply for the one-day permit for our event. We are hosting a tailgate before essentially we call it Blue and Gold Weekend. It's essentially our homecoming at UMass Dartmouth. So just wanting to make sure that we cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's and get all the right permits and everything to make sure that we are in cooperation with everything with the town of Dartmouth. It'll be our homecoming game on the 7th of October from, about 3 to 7 p.m. is when we're hosting it. We will have food there, as well as a beer truck that will be selling beer there. Trying to think what else you might want to know. We do have University of Massachusetts Dartmouth Police that will be screening everything there. And yeah, that's about what I've got for you. We do have the, as submitted in the application, the tip certification for the people that are doing the serving of the alcohol, as well as the liability insurances and everything like that as well.
Great.
All the approval process.
Everybody else has signed off.
All set.
Everything's been signed.
Everybody else has signed off.
Need a
I'd like
motion.
to make a motion to approve the one-day license for UMass Dartmouth Alumni Relations, October 7th, between 3 and 7 p.m.
Second.
I will second that.
Okay, any discussion? Time to vote.
Yes.
Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Abstain.
Abstain, very good. Chair votes yes. Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
4-0 to 1, approved.
And Mr. McGinnis, please make note of the record that it was a vote of the board. and that my abstention was there, just in case.
Okay.
Somebody.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
see you again soon.
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you, Michael.
Nice meeting you too.
Next time.
Rents are going up.
No.
No, tell Lucille that you said hello.
Let's move, maybe, the temporary trailer permit, we can just jump to that. I assume no one's here for that.
No.
Mr. McGinnis, a temporary trailer permit approval, 1088 Tucker Road in Dartmouth.
Yes, this has been reviewed by the building commissioner and all departments. However, as a temporary trailer
Where is
permit,
that?
it's required for select board approval.
Oh, Friends Academy?
Yeah. The temporary trailer permits require the approval of the select board.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an installation of a temporary modular classroom trailer for early childhood centers.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Let's vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks? Mr. Gracie?
Yeah, yes, but I have a question.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Why is it a temporary permit for the trailer?
Why is it? When they're doing construction, so they need the trailer during construction.
It's not permanent.
So it'll go away after the construction is done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You vote yes?
Yes.
Okay, the chair votes yes, 5-0 in favor.
Great.
Lastly, on the list of new business is the fall town meeting warrant review. Mr. McGinnis.
Yes, so this won't take too long because you've heard most of the articles here, but you can see we have the draft warrant. It's not 100% complete, but I'll go through it quickly and fill in some of the information. And Gary Carrero, our finance director, is here tonight too to kind of talk about capital. You've heard the first two, the two Community Preservation Committee articles. Article number 3 is outstanding bills. We have a few bills of prior years that have come in late that we need to pay. Right now, there's going to be 2. The police have one. We don't have the exact amount on that yet. We will have it for next week. We have one for Town Hall for $676.18. We have an appropriation to the stabilization fund. As you know, we try to maintain 10% of our budget to the stabilization. This allows us to maintain that. This will be $800,000 from surplus revenue. And Gary's here. He can talk about the capital planning report. He'll have that filled in for next week, but the capital planning committee met earlier today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for waiting for us.
So, as Sean had mentioned, the Capital Planning Improvement Committee met this morning at about 9 o'clock to discuss some of the asks that were given to us from the departments, various departments. This go-around, there weren't not many. Most of the time, most of the funding is done in the spring, as you had known that we had put through multiple capital items in the spring. So I'll just go over briefly what the committee discussed this morning and what projects they feel we can put through. Believe it or not, most of them are vehicles, because the age of our vehicles that we use here in town, we kind of get the best bang for the buck. Most of these cannot pass inspection. They've been rejected for conservation and for recreation. So the first one is for the admin. We spoke about the new assistant director that was hired. The director of the DPW, Tim, has requested $35,000 for SUV that we're putting in, that he's requested. Also, under the construction division, there was a F-550 dump truck with plow. This is 4x4 for $85,500. Under the highway division, road maintenance and improvements to enhance what we already get for Chapter 90 money for $1 million. And then another dump truck with plow and sander for $220,500.
4x4?
4x4.
Thank you.
Great.
SUV replacement, this is for parks. That's going to be $40,000. And then an F Ford 150 for the recreation department for $49,000. Road replacement, roof replacement, we're holding off on that for the schools at the moment. Conservation.
Gary, can you hold on a minute? The Parks and Rec, the F-150, what is that vehicle going to be used for?
So right now they're using our Parks Director, Tim, has a Ford F-150.
It's a Ford Ranger.
Ford Ranger,
Yes,
I
they're
call it a
both
Ford
Ford
Ranger,
Rangers,
yeah.
yes.
They're upgrading to an F-150?
Well, yeah,
There'll
no,
be 2 Ford Rangers.
yeah, there'll be 2 Ford Rangers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
The
right.
one that they use now is an older SUV, and it hasn't passed inspection.
Because I was wondering, because if it was going to end up being a work truck, my suggestion is an F-150 isn't going to cut it, like a 250 will, though. I
Yeah,
know
no,
it's
it's
more
not for
expensive.
like the facilities type work, it's just
Okay.
recreation for the.
Or anything like that.
Okay, all right.
Coordinator will be
Okay,
using it.
all right.
And then the other one was conservation. The vehicle that they're using is in dire straits. That's going to be a new vehicle along the lines of a Ranger, Ford Ranger.
4x4?
I think they only come 4x4.
They don't really need 4x4, but
Conservation?
Yes, yeah, that's why they need it, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to need 4x4.
49,000 for that. So,
Yeah, that's about a 4x4.
It's like
Okay.
an 8x8 for that money.
IT management service that goes along with the.
Yeah, so this is, we have our managed services that provide help desk support, malware, antivirus, and it's on all town computers but the police station. So this incorporates the police station to that, which
That's kind of
it needs to
important.
be on there.
That's kind of important.
Yes.
And then the last one for town, for the municipal side, is the $25,000 from the town clerk's office for a high-speed tabulator. Because the increase of mail-in ballots, they're not able to process them as quick, so that this tabulator would allow them to do that, $25,000. And then on the enterprise side, there were 2 for water enterprise, one for a odor control pump that's failed at the facility, $40,000, and an Enterlet system, which is for $10,000, which is their lab. They're having a difficulty getting results back from their lab, so they want to do more work on site. So they put in a request for that. So the committee met this morning. Those total from the general fund $1,785,975. Total enterprise request was $50,000. So we just certified our free cash, and we have $5.3 million in free cash for general fund, and then all the other various enterprise funds. So we're looking to not only use that, the committee had made some recommendations to put money aside for $1 million on any of the opera funds that we may not receive, and they feel that some of these projects they may want to move forward on. So we're going to earmark that, but it still sits in free cash. It's not that it's being spent. The other big piece of this is this. I know we've been talking about the long range capital planning committee and meetings that we've had. Is earmarking $1 million to start a long-term capital stabilization fund in the spring, which would earmark. Right now, we have $1 million set aside to put into that fund, which would help us. We grow that fund to help us with future long-term capital projects. And as was just mentioned, we put $800,000 in the stabilization, but we're plateaued right now for what the rating agencies want to see us put in. So now we can shift some of that free cash that we certify every year and move that towards longer-term projects.
That's a great start.
It's a different form of the way we do business, but I think it's very prudent to think that way. So that's where we are right now with capital, and we're going to have one more meeting scheduled for maybe next week. But we'll present this to the Finance Committee. I'll get the article together for them on Thursday.
Schools have any requests?
So the schools requested $225,000, but as you remember in the last, for the roof replacement, as you remember in the last go-around that we had with the budget, the town funded their budget an additional $558,000 out of our band account. So we had spoke with them, and the agreement was we have to kind of make up for that, even though in the fiscal 24 budget, we shorted our budget by that amount. So how we address that in fiscal 25 will still have to be determined, because it's still a hole now in the budget going forward of $500,000, and that just doesn't disappear.
Right.
So that's where we are with capital.
All right, so that's capital, Article 5. Then we have Article 6, appropriation to the stabilization fund for collective bargaining and non-union agreements. This is for agreements that are still unsettled. Then Article 7 is appropriation for collective bargaining agreements. This is the one we've reached, we think, a tentative agreement with the DTEA, and that'll be for FY 23 and through 25. The total is correct on here, $470,000. The breakdowns for 1 and 2 need to be well, the amounts, 120,000 and 350,000 are correct, but we've got to work on the breakouts, but we'll have that for next week. Article 8, appropriation for use of stabilization funds from the opioid legal settlement receipts. This is part of the DART team is requesting an appropriation of $85,000 from the Settlement Stabilization Fund to use in accordance with the strategy set forth in the Massachusetts State Subdivision Agreement. So they're looking to use some of the funding from the opioid funds for good causes, so they'll be presenting that. 9, 10, 11, 12 are the street acceptances. 13 is the zoning bylaw amendment you heard earlier from Attorney Cruz. And 14 is the citizen petition article regarding the health insurance contributions. And
What is the town council's view on the Article 14?
I can provide you with more information on that.
Yeah.
I did get a response. I can't remember offhand. I don't want to misspeak, so I'll have that for you for next week.
Okay, because this is a negotiating thing, and it's a citizen's petition telling us how to negotiate, which I'm a little concerned about. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with it or agree with it, but it's,
Precedent setting.
yes.
And also, a clarification, the opioid, my understanding is we're setting aside so we can spend up to that amount, but it'll be on very specific items, not just a total.
Correct.
Okay.
Could you just explain Article 13? Were these terms never defined previously?
No, a lot of those were already in there. There's some new terms that are in there that were not definitions, but were referred to in the bylaw already. So
Okay.
they were in the bylaw, but they just did not have a definition, so they've added those definitions.
He kind of made the point that it didn't change much as it clarifies things, is what I got out of it. All set, Mr. McGinnis? Any questions on that warrant? Anybody? Okay. Next, we move on to Town Administrator update when you are ready.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, as Gary had mentioned, the DOR has certified our free cash of $5,361,236. That's slightly under last year's by around a little over 200,000, but that's more of a timing issue than anything. So we anticipate like that our free cash is similar to last year. So thanks to Gary and Donna Fernandez, our town accountant, for putting that together and getting that certified. As you saw tonight, we've been working to get the town meeting warrant finalized. Gary had mentioned he'd worked with the capital planning committee and I today, so that should be finalized. And we're working on our article rationales and votes with the FinCom, so we should have those for the meeting on the 18th for the board's final vote on the warrant and signing. So thanks to Gary and also Melanie Perry in my office, who helps to draft the warrant, so she does a lot of work. As we've mentioned with the long-term capital planning committee, the committee met. Gary and I presented some funding schedules and analyses over the long term for some major projects. So I think the committee get an understanding of what the costs are to the town and what the affordability is. So I think over the long term, we showed that some of these things can be affordable. So we're continuing to work with the committee on a number of long-term capital, so we'll be presenting those more in the future. We provided some department head training today on diversity awareness, on moving toward a bias-conscious future. It was a great training provided by our EAP, free of charge, but that talked about diversity awareness in the workplace. I thought it was really important for the department heads to be aware of that. It was well-received and well-attended, so they did a great job. So. And then next on September 19th, we'll be doing some OSHA training here in Town Hall as part of OSHA requirements. So we'll be doing safety training for staff on bloodborne pathogen protection training. And lastly, we are monitoring the track of Hurricane Lee, and will inform the public of any necessary information as it becomes available. So watch our website, but we also have a new communications coordinator. So if anything is imperative that needs to get out, we will be pushing it
My
out.
wife already took care of that. She brought in 4 chairs, and now the thing's going out to sea, so she took care of it.
Oh.
So.
That's why I went out to sea.
That's what usually happens. No, it usually happens. We put stuff away, and then
yeah.
it goes away, and then that's
Exactly.
it. So my wife took care of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Louise.
It's like when you buy a snowblower and it doesn't snow for 2 years.
Yeah.
Or a snowplow.
All set?
I'm all set.
Okay, comments from board members?
Not on the town administrator stuff.
Okay.
No business.
Okay, old business. Bliss Corner, no new updates. The same with Lake Nokichoke Municipal Broadband. We've signed the contract with Entry Point, so they'll getting to work soon. And the Title V amendments, no new updates.
There are no minutes to approve?
No, not at all.
Right, so we can move on. Any comments from our board members?
No. Okay. I do have one thing. I know when we met with the state regarding Tucker Road and Route 6, the improvements there, I made a comment regarding the conditions of the rest of Route 6 and the way it is. They were out there doing the work, but it's still not as good. I mean, they just cut the grass. That was pretty much it. It still looks like crap. It still looks horrible. I don't know what they need to do, but
We do have a contact there now, so.
yeah, but the other thing too is we have not received from Eversource yet any kind of indication as to what's going to happen with the money that the town spent to repair a sewer line down over on Hemlock Street. You received something?
I would get a response that they wanted to provide some funding for some tree plantings, but not the equivalent of this $7,000. It was more the $1,500 range. So I told them that my feeling was that at the last meeting, the select board wanted the full 7,166, I think the number is, or more, and some sort of in-kind services, or just a dollar check to the town. So
Okay.
I have not heard back since.
Yeah, I'm not going to take a dime on a dollar, so that ain't going to happen. The other thing, too, is I also requested from Eversource a list of double poles, and I think according to the person from Eversource, they said there are no double poles in town.
He reported to me.
Okay, well,
If there are any, let me know.
I eventually, at some meeting, I will have hopefully a pictorial history of existing double poles in the town of Dartmouth. I can already name 2 on Tucker Road, on the right-hand side of the road as you're going south. I am not counting any of the poles on Allen Street because that is an ongoing work, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. However, just south of Allen Street on Tucker Road, there's a double pole. There's a double pole on Reed Road. I have people out there, I posted this on social media, and I got a whole bunch of double poles and pictures. So eventually I will have something for everybody to show that Eversource that, yes, double poles do exist in the town of Dartmouth, and you're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, his words to me were, we don't know of any. If you do find some, let us know.
Oh, okay.
go.
Yep. So, also, people who are out there listening, if you know of a location of a double pole, please send me the location, and if you have a photograph, send it to S. McDonald, that's SMCDONALD, at town.dartmouth.ma.us. I'd be more than happy to add it to my dog and pony show for Eversource. Thank you.
In color, please.
In color, yeah, in color. Well, everybody does. So, that's everybody's assigned homework.
Anything else, Ms. McDonald?
No, that's it.
Mrs. Brooks?
I just wanted to mention that a month or so ago, I think a little over a month, we instituted the customer service survey. And a few weeks ago, I received some information about, got to see the surveys. And so at that point, we had received about 16. And in online and 1 as a paper. And so I'm assuming we'll be seeing more of that.
Maybe you can send a little note to our new communication director.
Thank
Maybe
you.
she can help you out a bit.
I think we're up to
Good idea.
That'd be okay.
We're up to about 20? Awesome.
That's going to be a job, right? Mr. Gracie, anything from you?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I just want to just comment on the work that, working with Gary and with Sean in tandem, but the kind of work we're doing on this long-range planning and looking at it in a way that that's different. It's going to pay off, and we're going to couple that with the fact we can let people know what we're doing, how big these projects are, and have a plan down as we go forward. I think it's a really healthy way to look at how we run government and how we look at long-term. And I appreciate Gary's a nuts and bolts guy. Just give it to you straight, and you want information, he gets it for you. Just the way it should be. So thank you, Gary and Sean.
Mr.
Anybody
Chairman,
else? Yes.
motion to adjourn.
And I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion?
No?
Okay, I'd like to vote. Mr. Mickelson?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Gracie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 5-0. This meeting is adjourned.